All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back. Welcome back to another edition of the Hot Mic Podcast. My name is Nathan Ivy, aka Nate the Barbarian, and I'm your humble host. Welcome back. And as usual, I am not alone. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Lots to talk about today. And today on the crew, I'm joined with Phil Heimlich. How you doing, Phil?
Hey,
What's
Nate.
going on? And Kevin Aldridge. How you doing, Kevin? Good to see you.
Good man, good man. Good
Yeah,
afternoon.
and Tarris Horton. How you doing, Tarris?
Hey, what's up?
And of course, Nicole Taylor. How you doing, Nicole?
Hey, Nathan. Hey, everybody.
All right, let me see if I can put myself on the screen. There we go. It's finally getting it working. All right, glad to see everybody. Here we are the day after the inauguration. So we will spend some time talking about that. We may get a chance to talk about some stuff happening locally in terms of city council. But I want to jump straight into it. I know a lot of people took yesterday off in terms of like they weren't watching any of the inauguration. They weren't paying a lot of attention to it. And I'm not going to play too much for you, but I just want to add some context just so we can add some ambiance to the conversation. And I want to share just a little bit of what went down yesterday in case you missed it. Donald Trump was sworn in as the 47th president, and it looked like this.
It is my honor and pleasure to introduce to you the 45th and the 47th President of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump.
Thank you very much, everybody. Well, thank you very, very much. Vice President Vance, Speaker Johnson, Senator Thune, Chief Justice Roberts, Justices of the United States Supreme Court, President Clinton, President Bush, President Obama, President Biden, Vice President Harris, and my fellow citizens. The golden age of America begins right now. From this day forward, our country will flourish and be respected again all over the world. We will be the envy of every nation, and we will not allow ourselves to be.
So there it is, just to give you a gist of how things jumped off. Hold on, let me stop this. Give you a sense of what actually happened. Just the beginning. For those who are interested, you can check it on your own. I got that from PBS on YouTube, but it's all over the place. Plus, they've broken it down in bits and pieces to make it a little easier to digest. But for those, I'm not sure how much you got a chance to watch or any of the inauguration or what clips that you saw. But my first question for the panel is, um, did the new president's speech inspire hope in you? How do you feel after hearing his inauguration speech? What are your thoughts for the next 4 years? Are you feeling hopeful?
But don't all start at once.
Well, I'm always hopeful, Nathan, because I'm a hopeful guy, but my hope has nothing to do with the president. I mean, Donald Trump's inaugural address was pretty much par for the course, is what you expected. It was just more of his sort of self-aggrandizement, tearing down of the country for the sake of taking credit for anything positive that happens moving forward. when he talks about America's reputation around the world, like, what is his sources for that? Like, who is he? Where is this coming from? Like, it's coming from his own mind, and it's coming from his own interpretation of how he sees global events. And he does that so that, he can take credit for anything that's going on. I mean, I think America's standing around the world is what it always has been. People know they don't want to mess with us. People know that America is the most powerful and dominant nation on the planet. We've been that. We continue to be that. And unless Trump drives us over the cliff, that's going to continue regardless of what he does. So this notion that somehow America is not respected around the world, I think, is horse crap, quite frankly. But it's what he does. That's what he talks. And so we'll see. I mean, that's the thing that we'll see. He's got 4 years to show what he can do, and we'll see. So I'm not wishing, obviously, I'm an American just like everybody else. So I'm obviously not wishing failure on him, because if he fails, that means a whole lot of people are going to get hurt in the process and be hurt by that. But we do have to be diligent in terms of the things that he has said that he's going to do, and things that he's already done through executive orders that are going to be hurtful. And I'm sure we'll get into this later on in the program when we talk about pardons. I'm sure that'll be part of the discussion. So I won't get into that now. I'll save it for when we go down the line. But hey, it is what it was. It was he did what I expected him to do. He didn't say anything that he hasn't already said a million times already. So there were no stunning revelations in there. And I think we're going to get more of what we always get from Donald Trump. I don't see this being any different than the previous 4 years he was president.
Well, I'll say this. I didn't watch a lot of the inauguration, so I can't really comment on the speech. But what I can take from what I noticed in just some of the clips I've been watching today is that there was a lot of white people in the building, a lot of rich people in the building. They were in the rotunda, the exact same place where January 6th took place. So I know a lot of people that were involved that day probably has a little trauma, little eerie feeling to be in that space. And it's just funny that they get to be in that warm, cozy inside area, and a lot of his supporters had to be outside in the cold because it was freezing. I actually just came back from DC the following week on business, but I was glad to get out of there before people start flying in. But what I seen is Trump being given the respect that he didn't give when he was supposed to leave office. The Bushes were there, the Clintons were there, Barack Obama was there, and just different ones, and they showed him the needed respect for the position and the transition of power. And it's just funny that in that same area 4 years ago, all hell broke loose. And it's just really ironic to me. So I can't really comment on the speech, but I've heard that the first one was kind of like, he stayed on script, but he did a speech later on in that day. He was just all over the place. The Trump that just, a belligerent, human garbage pail of just everything possible that doesn't bring us together, but divide us even more. So more the same.
I'll go off what TNT said. It was in the rotunda for a reason. It is to erase history. Boom. They're not going to be thinking about only the left and the Democrats will be thinking about January 6th. Everybody else who is not in that specific mindset is going to be thinking about what a great day that was, what a historic day that was. If it was that significant of a day, why did everybody else become so agreeance for a conservative? For myself personally, the coach spoke. You know what I'm saying? The coach had his victory speech in a presidential way, and the rotunda was one thing, and I know TNT was talking about the people outside. There was Capitol Arena that was sold out. There was several. I'm talking about 14 black tie event parties that were going on at the event. That I'm saying 14, but it was probably 1,400 because people I knew, I got getting pictures, people running into people that they're like, I didn't know you guys knew each other. I mean, it was just like a big Republican National Convention. The coach spoke. Good job, everybody. 100 days of Trump, and then the mission moves on.
Phil, your thoughts?
I have a real sense of sadness, really, just about the country. I can't separate the pardons of the violent thugs from January 6th. I can't separate that from his inauguration speech because, first, as a former prosecutor and as I thought a law and order guy, I think the message that he sent by pardoning the most violent extremists is he is endorsing political violence. Okay, there's no other way to describe it. And it was interesting that remember the shaman, Jacob, whatever his name is, first thing he said when he was pardoned is, what are you going to do? They asked. I'm going to buy I'm going to buy guns because now my conviction's erased. And I'm going to tell you guys something. If you think those guys who got out are just going to go home peacefully to their homes and enjoy life, you're totally, totally mistaken. These guys, including some from right around here, these guys got their marching orders, and the marching orders are what we did is okay. And maybe you call me a paranoid guy, but I'll say to Kevin Aldridge and even myself, because I write some columns, don't be surprised if you write a negative column and a couple of guys show up at your door and kind of maybe rough you up or thread you, that kind of thing, because that is the mission of these guys. And understand, it would be, even if he just pardoned the small fries, he pardoned extremists. He pardoned white supremacists. That's who he pardoned. And when you pardon people like that, people who were sentenced to 20 years in jail for sedition and things, you are sending a message. And we are all going to experience that message in the years ahead.
Yeah, that sounds what Phil just said rings very true to me. So, full disclosure, I didn't watch every second of it. I watched probably a lot more than most people, and then got the rest from a bunch of different clips here. So I can't tell you succinctly every detail he said, but in general, my thoughts about his speech was same old Trump. These people out there holding out hope that somehow he's going to change and he's going to mature and step into the office. It's just not going to happen. He is who he is. And his speech was a reflection of things to come. And there was a whole lot of I, and me. But that's typical Trump. And, people like it. You know what I'm saying? The majority of the electorate did not vote. But the majority of people who did vote, by a small sliver, about 1.5, 1.7%, especially in key battleground states, voted for this guy. So if I'm him, I'm doing me. I'm doing. You said he told you what he was going to be, a dictator on day one, and that's exactly what he is setting out to do with
And
a
keep
lot
it,
of
I
shock
could
and
just,
awe. With a lot of shock and awe with a lot of his movements. So yeah, overall, sad day. I'm sad for working class people. I'm sad for people who believe that you can work hard and not commit crimes, and then through merit and some luck, pull yourself up maybe into a different class. I'm sad for those individuals because I think what you saw was the crowning of not only the next 4 years, but ushering in the era of an oligarchy where you have super ultra wealthy people who are actively and in publicly craving and carving and steering public policy toward their benefit, right? And there are a whole lot more working class people in this country than there are people worth $1 million or $10 million, certainly $1 billion. So that makes me sad in all those different levels. Those
can
are
I
generally
add
my
something
thoughts about it.
to follow up on what Nathan just said? The crowd there, essentially, I've used the expression "good Germans" before. these people, most of them know better. Okay, they know better, but they were basically, whether it's because they're billionaires who are going to get richer, or they're people who are just unwilling to stand up. They sat there applauding. It reminded me of one of that famous, the Putin speeches where he walks down and hundreds of people applaud him. That's kind of what it reminded me of.
Can I add?
I'm sorry. I was just gonna say, look, he won, like it or not. So yesterday was his victory lap. When you win, you get to do that, and it's difficult to watch, to listen, if you are not one of those people who supported that. And this was the choice that the American electorate had. And I think we've got to stop saying this is not who we are as a country, because I think that's a fallacy to say that, because evidently it is who 77 million Americans who voted are, and they like it. I mean, and I have a lot of diverse people who are a part of my timeline, Democrats, conservatives, independent. And I see a lot of my Republican friends and some of their posts on their social media, and in responding to some of his executive orders and the things that he said in his speech. And I've seen these exact words. This is what I voted for. When you declare that in the United States, we're only going to acknowledge that there are men or women. I saw people on my timeline who highlighted that executive order and said, this is what I voted for. So I think the reality is I think those of us who don't support Donald Trump or his views or his outlook want to say, hey, this is not who we are as a country. But I think that's part of the thing that folks going to have to come to grips with. What you think this country is not at least what maybe even at least half of this country is. The cold hard truth, the cold hard dose of water in the face of a lot of liberals is a lot of your neighbors that you think don't agree with you on what America is, they see America vastly different than you see it, and they're celebrating right now, and they're happy with what they heard, and they're not going to oppose some of the things that Donald Trump said. And that is a bitter pill that folk just gonna have to swallow. Stop saying this is not who we are. This is who we are, and this is who's running our country right
That's now. Why I like to come on these panels with you guys, because I like to be the voice of what you guys are like. When I come in, I say I want to be diverse. Like, we're happy on our side. I've seen a lot of my friends in the crowds, happy that worked hard to canvass and made phone calls and did everything and got on TikTok. And when everybody said that they were crazy and that our methods were abstain, and it worked. And it's like Kevin said, it's the victory lap. And no matter how, and like people were upset about the people who attended these things, it is the direction of, and this is a serious, like you said, a pill. This is a serious pill, because every time I come on here, I try to be honest. This is the direction it's going, because all the direction influencers are going to influence the Trump way. It's just the way it's going to be. So, I mean, that's why I want to listen today a lot, because I hear you guys saying things and I'm still like, man, they still don't get it.
Right. I agree with
don't get what, Tarris? I don't understand what you're saying.
You're like, everybody's like, Trump, same old Trump, same old, like same old, and getting fixated on.
So what is your point? What is your point?
That y'all are looking at the shiny ball when the whole other game is going on beside you. We're past this inauguration. We're past a whole bunch of stuff, and y'all are like, oh man, this is it. Y'all are still absorbing the loss when we're 2 years ahead.
Well, okay, but be more specific, because I don't understand.
You're talking about pardons for the January 6 people. When we're thinking about,
it happened yesterday.
It's gone. We're thinking about Fauci. We're thinking about. You're talking about January 6, right?
You support the
pretty
pardons?
significant.
You support the
See,
pardons?
that's where we're different. That's where we're different.
It's
That's where you
pretty
guys are
significant
fixated
when
on.
Do
a
you support
convicted felon
the
president
pardons?
Do
put
I
a
support?
I'm
Do I?
asking.
get out of
Can
jail
that
card
question?
for his
Hold on
term
one second,
limit.
Phil. Let TNT finish.
No, I'm saying it's pretty significant when our first convicted felon president has put out a blanket pardon, get out of jail free cards for a bunch of white wing extremists and the oath keepers and the different ones that we know are extremists and racist organizations. What I wanted to get back with what Phil was saying is that there's a young man, one of the people that are being left out or let out. His name is his son Jackson Relfit. He reported his father to the FBI. He is afraid. He is afraid because his father has called him a traitor. His mother and sisters was there, but it's just like he has to leave his home. But he did the right thing and turning his father in because he knew outside of just like going to the Capitol and, doing what he did, he had a bigger plan to like disrupt and cause anarchy. And so he knows that he's heavily consumed in conspiracy, that misinformation that you're talking about. And so these people are dangerous. It's just like if you know that your child may go to a school and shoot up the school, you need to say something. This young man did what needed to be done. It said something. Now his father is coming out. He said, I have to get a gun. I have to protect myself. He loves his father and everything, but he know who he is. But he's afraid for his life now. Then the murderer, the person who murdered the officer, Brian Sicknick, was released. Everyone was saying before this that there will be some conditions, maybe the ones with the misdemeanors, the people that trespass and, maybe did a little destruction of property, maybe those, but not the violent offenders. Everyone and receive dismissals without prejudice. So this can never come back before any court. And for you to like make it seem like we're moving past this. This isn't important. This is historical, and it is madness. And really, he can try to rechange the story as he is trying to do, but the facts remain. Videos forever. Men lie, women lie. Videos don't. Well, we always will have that. We will always have that evidence, and his intentions, because he didn't want to accept that he lost, and he moved forward with the biggest lie that caused people that support him to react in a certain way. He's responsible, and the people that took the actions that they did are responsible for their actions. And so pardoning them like this says that, hey, you could do this again, and there's no real consequences. A president can wipe all this away for you, especially if it's Trump. There's no consequences to anyone's actions and no accountability. And then the action, like, it's like the most traitorous thing you can do in this country. A foreign country never done this to our own capital. And you're trying to say that wasn't important. Like people are just going to forget about that. Like yesterday's talk show.
Yeah,
No.
Nicole, if I can, Tarris can speak for himself, but here's what I hear him saying, and this is sort of what I've had to come to the realization of, is when you're talking about those on the other side, and what Tarris is saying is, I think you've got people who are cut in two different buckets. They're the supporters of his who don't care. I don't care how important you think it is, or I think it is, they don't care. And when he says they've moved past it, they don't care. And then there's the other group of people who might care, like J.D. Vance or even his own attorney general nominee, who said, and even some people on Capitol Hill who said that they don't think the violent offenders should get out. They may think that, but they're not going to buck Donald Trump. They're feckless, they're cowardice. They're not going to stand up and say anything about it. So this is what you're dealing with. And then you've got another group of people who live in this misinformation universe. Okay. And when you talk about Trump's pardoning of the January 6 people, what they're going to come back with you and talk about all of the people that Joe Biden pardoned minutes before he left the office. And their view of this is, hey, this just goes to show how corrupt Joe Biden is and why pardon people if they hadn't done anything. I'm telling you, these are the conversations. And this is why I say our dialogue as a country is broken. Like, if you're not listening to what the other side is saying and how they're viewing it, you're going to continue to move forward which is what I think Tarris is trying to say.
I still like
Let me finish Let me finish my last point. You're going to continue to move forward in this thing where you're going to be outraged, and there is a large swath of people who either don't care but can't do nothing about it, or just operating off of so much bad information that even when you hit them with the good information, they're not going to respond to it.
I'd like to answer the question. Do you agree with the pardons? I don't want to know about, Kevin's right. Oh, there's a large segment that doesn't care. They want to move past it. I'm asking you, okay? Because you've identified as sort of a conservative Republican. Do you support the pardons, or do you see it, as I do, as a complete travesty of justice? What is it, in your opinion?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't look at that. Hold on, Phil.
Violent offenders.
I don't look at things like
released?
that, Phil. I don't look at things like that, Phil. I had to learn very, very fast, and I learned it from one of my mentors, who is a black politician. He said, Tarris, you operate in just good things. You are an upright, upstanding man who does what he says and means what he says He's like, these other people aren't like that. So they don't understand, because they're looking at you like, what are you going to do to stab me in the back? And whenever I walk in upstandingness,
That's a non-answer. That's a non-answer.
So my answer is that is my answer.
Do you
Phil,
support
what Tarris is doing right now?
He's not listening to what I'm saying.
What Tarris is doing right now is exactly what I'm talking about.
I don't got no feelings for this. I'm looking.
What Tarris is doing right now, Phil, is exactly what I'm talking about.
No feelings for them? You don't care?
Okay. Hold on. I'm Kevin. I'm gonna make you so right now. Dr. Fauci has got he's got a pardon, and he is responsible. If we go to these subcommittee hearings, you're going to see that Dr. Fauci is responsible for a lot of stuff, a lot of people's lives being lost, more people than January 6th, way more people. My life personally was affected by what Fauci's decisions were, and for him to get to walk free, man, it's weights and balances.
What crime did he commit?
So I don't think either of them are right. I don't think either of them are right.
What crime did Fauci commit? Just tell us.
Which one affects me more? Which one affects me more?
What crime did he commit? You said he ought to go to jail. What crime? For what crime?
Inducing panic. Inducing a pandemic. Inducing.
That's not
You're
right. That's not a crime.
This is what
and I'm still waiting. To me,
this is what you do.
We're here on this show, and we're supposed to give our opinions.
Hold on.
We're supposed to give our opinions, and you won't say whether you support the pardons. You won't say it.
You don't,
Why
because
not?
you're not listening. You don't ever listen to me. Because there's subcommittee hearings that go in Congress, and Congress grill these people, and Dr. Fauci was grilled by Rand Paul.
I thought he asked you about January 6th, though, Tarris.
Let's go back to January 6th, guys. Will you answer the question? Do you support the pardons? It's a simple question.
The part I don't have a decision in that. I don't have a decision.
You don't have a
and
decision.
I'm not going to say. Do you support
fear-
Dr. Fauci? Do you support Joe Biden's? Like Kevin just said, there's weights and balances.
Yeah.
How can you expect me to not? How do you expect me to hold somebody else to a certain standard that you're not holding your own? You're not holding Joe Biden to an standard. So you're just sitting there talking about Trump.
Here's what I'm hearing.
Trump.
Here's what I'm hearing, Tarris, if I may. Here's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing that when it comes to that question, which is a very simple question, you're talking about people that already went through the judicial process and were judged by their crimes based upon the severity of their crimes. What I'm hearing is, for whatever reason, there's an unwillingness on your part to answer that question. Do you fear some kind of retribution from the Republican side? Like,
oh my God.
It's a real simple question.
Come on,
like, but Tarris,
goofy.
listen to yourself, though, bro. Listen to yourself.
Okay.
You couldn't answer a straight question about should the January 6th people be pardoned, but you went to this long thing about Dr. Fauci and talking about inducing panic. You got a strong opinion about that. So yeah, you do have an opinion. What is your
Okay,
opinion?
I do.
just
I do.
Terrence,
My
Nathan.
opinion.
It's
My
not
opinion.
just
My
Terrence.
opinion.
This
I
is
will
this
say
is
it. My
far.
opinion on January 6th. My opinion on January 6th that there was
Should they have
people
been
who
pardoned?
the people what when the FBI when the federal investigation
Should they
comes
have
out
been pardoned?
until the federal investigation comes out, I think that yeah, I
They've
do. I
already
agree with
been adjudicated. They've
by
already gone through the
who?
process.
By who? By
Again,
the same
The
people
Nathan,
who.
same
this
government.
is
Wait,
silly.
That's like
by
me saying
Tarris.
that's like giving in the black community.
Tarris.
Hold on. Here's my analogy. In the
Let me
black
answer your
community,
question.
dropping crack cocaine off in the black community, the FBI
That's a
blacking
whole
crack cocaine
different
off in the black
issue.
community, and then locking the people up for selling
It's
the crack
nothing like
cocaine
that.
that you put in the
It's
black
nothing
community.
like
Yes,
that.
it is.
Nathan,
You
this
Yes,
act
it
this
by
is
is.
who?
what you're
Yes,
By
it
doing
the
is.
right
same
now. What
judicial
you're doing
system
right
that
now.
is that judges all of us. It's the same judicial system. That's who.
That's what you're saying.
Nathan, what you're doing
was
right now, and what liberals are doing, and even the media to a degree, is part of the problem. Is you are trying to have a reasonable conversation with folks who are not interested in an earnest conversation with folks who are not interested in doing that. Now
But that's
here's
the
what I'll
nature of the
say.
show. It's
It's
a
a
debate and discussion show.
it's a simple answer, and I'll give you credit. And I'll just say this: JD Vance better watch himself, because he had the nerve to actually say what he thought, which is not popular in MAGA circles. Is why Vivek Ramaswamy is running for why he got ejected from Doge, and why he's running for governor in the state of Ohio right now, because he had the nerve to condemn American culture and talk down to the MAGA base and talk about bringing in
But so did Elon.
immigrants from other countries. That's why he's on the outside looking
but
in.
Elon did the same thing, and he's still in Doge. So that's
who
not
is
it.
that?
I said Elon did the exact
Yeah,
same
but
thing.
the difference between the difference between Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk.
Oh, I know what the difference is.
Okay, well then that answers everything
That's
that you
skin
need
color.
to say. That tells you everything that you need to know. When you
also,
ain't got
the law.
when you ain't got Elon Musk
you got the
money, you
law.
can't be running your mouth like Vivek.
It's not just his money, it's
Vivek
his skin color
Ramaswamy.
as well. But back to your point and when I was talking about him, that's the nature of this show. We're supposed to have those conversations. So
No, I'm
that
not.
doesn't
I'm
really
not
apply here.
suggesting. I'm not talking about the show. I'm just saying that what is frustrating, liberals gotta figure out a new strategy.
Yes.
Because you're trying to talk to people who are not talking your language.
I've already told you what the strategy is, what the game plan is. It's real simple. They have already declared war. This was done many years ago. The Republicans are at war. It's war for them. It's winner takes all, right? Period. By any means necessary. The Democrats and those that support them are still slow to that. You are already at war with them because they declared it. And you ain't got no chance at some point but to react to it. Because the Republicans, it's MAGA today, before it was a Tea Party. 5 years from now, it'll be some other group, but it's the same thing. It's class warfare dressed up like it's some kind of populist movement, but it's really class warfare. And they declared it 50 years ago, and that's why they are, if you want to call it winning right now, you can put it that way. But the Republicans, that's why they move the way they do. It's war for them.
Are we talking about a script too?
When
Kevin
I
says
say
a
the
script.
strategy, the messaging's got to be different.
It will be.
Like
once
here's what I hear. Here's what I hear as I observe liberals talking about. Like there's all of this outrage about Donald Trump, and justifiably so. But that's not penetrating. You tried it. You tried it during the presidential campaign. It didn't work.
You just tried it, Kevin.
You talked about, let me finish, Terry. You talked about the man's 34 felonies. It ain't work. He still got elected. You talked about outrage about January 6th. People ought to be outraged. You talked about that. It didn't work. He still won. I'm not suggesting. Again, look, I get it. I write about a lot of these things. I talk about a lot of these things. But there has to be a realization that you got to come back around and you got to start talking about things to those apathetic Americans that didn't vote, because they don't care about that either. We can talk about the people on the right, but there were obviously a lot of people who didn't vote in this election who weren't moved by those things anyway. So instead of talking about crowd size and Donald Trump didn't get these many people out here, and focusing on all of this furniture and stuff that don't mean nothing to nobody but the talking heads, You got to start to develop a new strategy for how you gonna bring the
I
apathy
told you
out
what
of
the
folks.
strategy was.
Can I get
You
kind of what
need
Kevin
to
said?
give people an enemy. You need to tell people who is to blame for this. And then when you get in power, you need to go at them. The Democrats and those that support them need to understand that you are at war. MAGA declared war a long time ago. And people are still slow waking up to this. But I still think there was a lot of factors, including race and gender of Kamala Harris, that played a big part in this as well. You know, Joe Biden was like, you know what? If I had stayed in the office, if I had stayed in the race, I might have won. He said he would have won. And considering he's a white male, even with him slowing down a little bit, who knows?
I
That's
know.
what this election told us.
I gotta go with Kevin.
That's
Let me finish with
He
Kevin.
would have lost. He would have lost.
I don't know.
About Vivek.
I don't know. We'll never know.
Kevin said something about Vivek and about how something in Doge and there's a fallout. Come on, Kevin. You guys are very intelligent. Y'all are playing checkers, and it's making it so easy. You can make it seem like, okay, you got the script writers of the WWE, the McMahons, right? You got Dana White, script writer for UFC, right? These dudes are writing scripts. You can want to say, oh, let's act like we're having a falling out, because I really over here, this chess move is to become the governor of Ohio. How easy would that be for Vivek to just move right over there? And you're shaking your head like, nah. Man, I'm going to help him do it.
With
I'm going to help him do it.
right
Okay,
now.
cool. I'm going to help Vivek win.
And if you think, JD Vance, Ohio is now going to make him the governor at where it stands right now, I don't think so. But there is no better, platform than the truth. And all they're offering is alternative facts. And alternative facts is just like altered facts, an altered truth, I should say. And so we're not going to just abandon that. And these individuals, right now, what we saw at the inauguration, that was $1 trillion in the room. Money plays a big part in our politics. And all the major companies is coming to Trump, and he's up here like, did you donate to my campaign? It's like the White House is for sale, And so people better be very, very leery about, the products that you're purchasing, what you're ingesting, what I'm saying? The air we breathe, because it doesn't look like, we have a president that cares or is thinking about the better good of the people of this country. And that's something on SNL, Dave Chappelle said something like, we are all pulling for him to do the right thing, to do right by Americans, more importantly, because that position requires not just, someone that can, win an election, but someone who is a good person, a good man, a good woman with good intentions for people, all people. And so the way he's moving, and that's why they, in the election, people were saying like, oh, people are getting too personal and they're putting their emotions to it and they're making it about this and that. But I mean, you do have to evaluate character, because at the end of the day, if I don't trust you, if I can't believe, if everything you say is like a lie, every other sentence, this is a problem for our politics. This is a problem for our nation and our democracy. If you have a public that don't trust anything, we don't trust the health department, we don't trust the Department of Justice, we don't trust anything, then what do we? And that was their plan. That was the breakdown. It was really Steve Bannon, because they've been doing this all around the country of like dismantling governments, and now he's on the outs. And like we said, we have an oligarchy. Right now it's becoming an oligarch of rich people running our country, and it's about to be the White House is for sale. And you may think that's good for us right now. I don't see how that benefits you. I don't see how that benefits everyday people who thought that they were voting for, their rent to go down, and thought that eggs was going to go down, and thought that, the heat and energy bill would go down. That's like furthest from anyone's thought.
It's less than 24 hours.
But you see, he was able to, what did he do in the first? He's ended like birthright citizenship in day one.
Good.
The day one, you know what I'm saying? Like
Good.
that's the priority than people's pocketbooks. You know what I'm saying? You want to enforce all these racist ideas first, the DEI programs, which I'm surprised none of these like programs are saying anything about that. Like, wow. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay. And
They're just going to repivot and
like
name
about 80 of Biden's of laws. So one was the prescription drugs and having that cap lowered. So that's out of there. Trump is bad for people's health. You know what I'm saying? Like, not just your pocketbooks, but your health, and then and the tariffs that he on day one, that was the priority. That's okay with you? Is that what you voted for?
Yep. Because y'all are failing to see that people don't care about you. The stuff y'all think these people who voted for Trump care about, you're wrong. I'm telling you, I look and I see this stuff, and the stuff when they say this is what I voted for, they could give a damn. They say it's about the price of eggs and all of that, but they'll forgive that. They'll overlook because he's not going to do it. They're going to overlook it because the main thing that they voted for is this notion of Donald Trump returning America to some golden era that in their mind does not include people who look like you and me, gay people, whatever. They want to get back to the good old days of the good old boy, white America. And they will overlook every other transgression this man has done. And I don't know what it's going to take for people to accept that. It's staring you right in the face every single day, and you're refusing to accept the evidence. And it's like, if you don't accept the evidence of what is painfully in front of you, because we keep falling for this. Oh, this is what people care about. But every time this man fails to deliver on that and they excuse him for it, it's just like he can back away from the election. Oh, well, you know, it's going to be harder for me to lower prices right now. And they'll excuse that. Oh, I'm going to pardon, even though he said it during the campaign, and we conveniently didn't want to believe he's not really going to. Hell yeah, Donald Trump do what he say he going to do. And if you vote for that anyway, that lets you know where people who support that vote for that. And it's like there's a certain point where it's like, when are you going to accept the reality of your neighbors and the people who voted for him and what they really want for this country and what they will sacrifice to get it?
Hey, listen, y'all late to the party. I've been telling you this for 10 years now. When I went to the RNC and was actually around them and at the parties and spending all day talking with people on the sideline and listening to them, that's when it jumped into my head like, oh, this is real. Because before I saw it firsthand, I'm like, this can't be real. It can't be that many people that believe this nonsense. So welcome to the party. I've been telling people for 10 years, MAGA is your biggest political threat. If you're a working class person or you're a black person and you're looking for public policy that's going to benefit your life, MAGA is your number one opponent. I've been saying it for a long time. This ain't new. In no way am I trying to appeal to or change any MAGA person's opinion about anything. That's why I call it a cult. I'm speaking to the people that feel like I do, whether they vote or they don't vote, because these are the days of picking a side and standing on it. I ain't trying to appeal to people on the other side and get you to come over here. If you hear what I have to say and you naturally come over, great, but you're not my target. Because I don't think that those people
Can I add something to that?
I don't think those people are redeemable at all. That's why it's a cult. The Republican Party is not based on policy goals. It's whatever Trump wakes up in the morning and says. He can flip-flop back and forth. They're going to go with it. He can say one thing on grocery prices and then change his mind when he gets in office. They're going to go with it. It's not about public policy.
Can I add something to that?
Praise Trump. That's what the Republican Party on a national, really all over the country has become.
I think that everybody needs to be aware that the scariest thing of all the stuff we've been talking about is that the U.S. Supreme Court, led by Justice Roberts, who presided over the oath yesterday, they said that the president can do anything he wants as long as it's called an official act. This is something, by the way, they pulled out of their rear end. It's certainly not in the Constitution anywhere. And I want everybody to understand Donald Trump can direct the Proud Boys to shoot somebody. He can tell, as Ketanji Brown said, he can tell SEAL Team 6 to shoot Adam Schiff or whatever. He has no liability whatsoever. And so I think if nothing scares people, that should scare you, that we have a president, or even future presidents, but we have a president who can do almost anything, any act of violence, anything, declaring martial law instead of it
Here's where
before
you're wrong,
it.
Phil.
Excuse
That's
me.
not the scariest thing. That's
Excuse
not
me.
the scariest
Well,
thing.
let me finish.
The scariest thing is you have a sizable and a considerable portion of the electorate, of the population, who, if he did that, wouldn't have a problem with it and wouldn't have anything to say about it, just like Tarris had nothing to say about, Tarris had nothing to say about the releasing of violent offenders from January 6th. Look, Trump said it. I could stand on Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose any votes. That is where you are. That's not where we're going. It's not where we're going. That is where we are.
The difference is, though, Kevin, that in the past, remember, our government is a democracy. It's a republic, and we have 3 branches of government. And the point is, the role of the court is actually to protect minorities from the majority. Okay, and we can go through times, Brown versus Board of Education, or a host of other instances where the court has said, "Hey, even if a majority wants to do this, our Constitution prevents it." That is gone. So I understand. I don't disagree with you that the vast majority of people, or half the country, want the things that you're talking about. But what has changed is the president now, because of that decision, has unlimited power to do what that group wants. There's no gap. There's no court standing in the gap.
And what's even scarier is that there's no Congress either. And we should be more afraid of the many enablers that will just allow these things to go on. And I don't know if there's any barriers. There was even things written in his executive order where he was like, he wanted to, if anyone exposed any evidence or any fouls, whatever, like any whistleblowers, that they can be prosecuted. I mean, he was covering all ends to make sure, like, if you're leaving this administration and something comes out, or if you're a part of this administration and something comes out, we're going to get you. And so it makes it more difficult for people to speak up when you already have a group of people, elected officials that we send up to represent us, who won't do anything. And so where this leads, that, that's not democracy. But we do have to remember, and I hear what you saying, Brother Kevin. I came back from a NAACP debrief, and we're trying to figure out, like, what are the next steps and stuff. But one of the main things that they left on all of us as leaders to do is to remind the people that we still have power.
Yep.
The moment we feel like we don't have power is when, everything is dismantled. And it also leads me to think of one of my favorite Martin Luther King quotes, where he says, "It's not the words of our enemies that we will remember, but the silence of our friends."
Yeah.
So we can't be silent in this time. We can't feel like, we can't speak truth to power, or that the truth is no longer the standard. We can't allow people to come with all these alternative facts. That's why there is a debate. That's why we do converse back and forth, and truth has to prevail. And so if that's going to be our job, everyone's job, the next couple of years, we have to do our part, but we have to remind the people that we do have power.
Yeah, no, I don't. And again, I don't take anything that I've said as a rejection of truth, or that we shouldn't continue to beat that drum and go down that path. I think it's who you're delivering that message to, and how you're developing a new message in addition to that, to reach people who you're not reaching, because preaching to the choir ain't gonna work. preaching to the other side sure as hell ain't gonna work, because you're not converting any of those folks who are on the other team. They've decided what kind of country they want,
that didn't vote,
what they're willing to overlook. And again, I'm talking to Phil, not you, but I'm talking to people like you who serve in Congress or in these other spots who consider themselves good Republicans, but they're quiet. You know, Rob Portman to me was one of the biggest disappointments and traitors. I'll use that word. He betrayed his country to be a good soldier for the Republican Party. And I like Rob Portman. I used to like and respect him as an individual, regardless of the party. But what he did in his silence, in his going
or what he
along,
didn't do.
Yeah, exactly. In his going along, to bring up another quote from Martin Luther King when he said, and I'm paraphrasing this here a little bit, that it's not just enough to be on the side of good, to cooperate with good, but you must be non-cooperative with evil. Those might sound like the same things, but they're two different things. Like, it's easy to go along with good things that are happening. It's another thing to fight against evil. Those are two different things. And there are a lot of people who don't want to get into the fight against evil. They'll be quiet, to Nicole's point. They'll be silent when they see evil things. And that's what we see a lot, particularly from these so-called establishment Republicans who want to think of themselves as good people and know what Trump is doing and some of the bad people on that side are doing. You are part of the problem. And when you think it's not coming for you, you're mistaken. And Tarris, in all honesty, when I talk to you and other brothers on the Republican side of things, I'm not saying that you shouldn't be a part of that party, but you sure as hell shouldn't be cooperating with some of the negative things that you're doing. To me, it's a no-brainer. Somebody commits violence against police officers, regardless. Okay, let's just say theoretically that there were some people who were caught up and charged in January 6th who maybe didn't deserve as harsh a criticism or treatment as they got. I might be open to have that discussion on maybe we can look at some of the cases on a case-by-case basis and say maybe this person was punished a little bit too harshly for just kind of being there. But perpetrators of violence, that to me is a no-brainer answer. And the fact that you have to equivocate on that means that you're cooperating with evil. And there's no way around it. You can slice it up no matter how you want to slice it up, parse words, talk conspiracy and all of that. You've seen with your own eyes. People crushing police officers, hitting them with fire extinguishers, doing all sorts of stuff. And these were people who were convicted under our justice system by a jury of their peers. Okay? Now,
Most of them pled guilty, by the way.
If we've gotten to the point as a country, where we can overlook that, we're lost, and our democracy is already gone.
We're there.
We're
right there. We, like you said, 77%.
So then I agree with Nathan's
overlook
point. So then I agree with Nathan's point. If that's where we are, then we are at a point of war.
That's where we are.
And it's now you're gonna have to choose a side, because
it's a cold
the side is clearly good versus evil in that. In that case.
But that's the same thing. But the same thing that you're saying, and the same, if we get 4 conservatives and 1 person on the left in a room, and the conservative person and we're talking in our talking points, and the person on the left is saying his thing, it'd be the same thing.
No, it wouldn't.
Yes, it would. We would be saying,
if you came to me with visual evidence, if you came to me with visual evidence, a court conviction, and you came to me and said, "Hey, Kev, what do you think about this? Do you think this person would be pardoned?" I would have the integrity to say no. I would say no. They deserve to be Republican, Democrat, independent, whatever. If you are a violent criminal, your butt belongs in jail, period.
Okay. If you understand, if you have knowledge and understand that the Department of Justice could be, it's all, if they say there's 25% of the people that were in that crowd where they were part of the FBI. They were included in. Okay, so there's another war going on as well. What I'm hearing is the only information that is allowed to be digested by anybody is the information that you guys get. And whenever someone comes
It's
with
evidence.
anything that's
It's
outside,
proof.
when anything come with anything outside,
What-
because
what-
I seen video
But you-
evidence of old ladies
That's
being
kinda childish.
escorted in on the other side of the Capitol. I had friends that were in the Capitol this weekend that have access to during the inauguration. It's not like the Capitol building is shut down during this time. People have access to that building, and then you put
So
all
what
these
you're
people.
saying, Tarris, is because let's just go with your argument here.
Yes.
So what you're saying is, so let's just say if there were
You won't let me
FBI,
finish.
if there was an FBI person and they say, hey man, come on into the Capitol, and you come on into the Capitol and you tear something up, whose responsibility, who's at fault for tearing the stuff up? You or the person who let you in? Because don't you still have you conservatives who are big on personal accountability and responsibility? Just because somebody let you in don't mean you got to go in and tear up stuff.
Okay, here's the
Nothing
scenario
was
how I
said
seen it. Here's the
legitimized
scenario I've seen
the
it.
accident of
Trump gets up there and he says, okay, you guys go there and you do your thing. Because I know some people there. One people went one way, one people went toward the Capitol. And when they're on their way to the Capitol, they're on their way, and these are idiots. I don't support any of them. I don't have any empathy for any of these people. I don't care. I mean, I would never be a part
So
or
then
affiliated
you
with
agree
any
with
of
the
January
January
6th.
sixth?
But I'm saying,
No.
I'm talking about how it, and then they get to this area, and then you have FBI agents mixed all in, and
They were
Tyson
looking
things
for Nancy
have they
Pelosi.
have done in the past. If you talk
What
about
evidence
anecdotal-
do you have, though,
Nothing.
Terry? At the end of the day, we got to
at the end
come
of the day,
back
at the
and
end of the
we
at the end
got
of
to
the
fall
day,
back
at the end of the
on.
day, at the end of the day,
We
whenever
have
the
to fall back on
subcommittee,
empirical,
let's just say
objective evidence. What evidence do you have?
Let's
That
concede
there were
it. Even if
FBI
you wanted to
agents who were there.
concede,
Subcommittee hearings.
even if you wanted to concede that,
Subcommittee
Nathan,
hearings.
But we
where
hold on one
Tarris-
second,
where
Kevin.
Tarris
I
makes no
watched
sense.
enough of the
Where
subcommittee
Tarris's
hearings,
argument makes
and then
no
some of the stuff that
sense.
came out to
That even if
suggest
you wanted to
that there was no
concede that
FBI
point,
agents whatsoever. They just had a big hearing about this, and
Nate-
what they
Nathan.
said is they didn't have FBI agents, and these are the people who would have the information. The Department of Justice, right? Where else are you going to get this information? I'm not going to take it from, Tucker Carlson. I'm not going to take it from CNN. The only
The
way you
same
can get this information, the only place that you could objectively get information about who was in the crowd is from the Department of Justice. They had a
But when
big
you don't
hearing
trust
about
the
this,
Department
Terry.
of Justice,
And what
when
they
you
Right.
found
don't
out
trust-
is that
when
there were
you
no
don't
FBI
trust the
agents.
Department of
Hold on,
Justice-
I'm going to give it to you in a second. What they found out, hold on one second, Kevin. Let me just finish this thought.
with his base,
Let me
they're
just
not
finish
going to
this thought.
accept that.
I hear you.
They're
Let
not
me
gonna
finish this
accept
thought.
that.
All you have to do is look at what they said in committee, and what they clearly shared is that there weren't FBI agents there. There were FBI assets, like undercover people who worked undercover as
Yes.
informants. Those are not
Yes.
FBI agents. Now, if you had
Enticers.
some evidence that these informants
Antagonizers.
were inciting the riot,
Yes,
it would have been already out there. That evidence has never been presented to anybody. Where is it at?
Nathan, this is the part of it. This is the part of
It
the
doesn't
argument that
exist.
I'm saying.
I've
saying
watched
you're
subcommittee
never
hearings and
let
said
them.
yes.
Here's where you got to lead folks like Tarris, because the reality is he's not going to accept the facts that you say, and most people who think like him are not going to accept it. You're saying objectively, the Department of Justice is the only one that you'll take information for.
I'm saying show me any evidence whatsoever.
It don't matter whether they can show you.
Oh, I
evidence.
already know.
No,
But that's the
here's what I'm
point, though,
saying.
Kevin.
Just follow their argument to the logical conclusion. Even if what you say is true, Tarris, even if there were FBI informants or whatever in the crowd, does that absolve individuals from their personal responsibility for the acts that they did?
No.
Okay, thank you. That's where you got to leave.
I've never
That's
never
where you
said
got
I
to
supported January
Let's just
6th.
face it.
I have never said I supported
To
January
come
6th.
full circle, are you saying you disagree with the parties now?
Let's
Do I
just face
disagree
it.
with-
When
No, I
law
don't.
enforcement knows people are engaged in nefarious acts or planning it, they set people up all the time. They set drug dealers up all the time. They set politicians who are trying to exchange. That's how 3 people on Cincinnati City Council got caught.
Yep.
They got set up by the feds
Yep.
because the feds got wind of some corruption going on.
And what did they?
The
At least one of them
feds,
say
informants or
they were
setting
set up.
up criminals is not the police. Do it all the time. Okay, these are legal tactics. In other words, the police can lie, they can set you up, they can do whatever they need to get black people. You ought to know this as a black person. How many black people done got lied to by the police? We got you on video. You might as well go ahead and confess. They ain't got a shred of video. Okay, this is not uncommon to the practices that law enforcement does. You still have a personal responsibility for your action. So I'm content to let these MAGA fools run on with this conspiracy that they got. It still don't absolve the people who committed the acts from the acts. This is why I say I get you, Nathan. I understand exactly what you're saying, but let these fools concede them points and let them have an argument, because you know what? I can let you in all day. I can let you into a liquor store. I can open the door for you, hold it open for you. If you go in and rob the place, guess what? You're going to jail. What you gonna say? Oh, Kev held the door open for me.
Unless
that's
I
you
agree
do
with you,
what
Kevin.
did.
Kevin, I agree with you. I agree with you 100%.
Come on,
And I do
man.
not, I've said this
Give
every
me a
time on the
break.
programming. I do not condone, or I do not agree with anything that happened on January 6th. All I am doing is trying
It
to
sounds
be.
like you did. You
Oh,
said
but
you
hold
agree with
on,
the
hold on,
pardons.
hold on. Y'all never let me finish even complete a sentence.
You contradicted yourself, bro. That's what we do. We call out contradictions.
Can I finish? Can I finish one sentence without you
Yes,
saying that?
sir.
I do not agree with or condone with anything that has to do with January 6th. I am here to tell you that it don't matter.
Do you agree with the pardons? Yes or no?
No. I don't agree. I don't care. I agree. I don't care.
That's a cop-out.
It doesn't bother me. I don't.
That's a cop-out.
The pardons do not bother me either way. If they would,
But
if
that's
they're in
not the
jail,
question.
if they're in jail, they can stay in jail.
This is
and if
fun.
they're out, I don't care. They
Watching
don't
you
bother
try
me.
to wiggle around on this is hilarious. You've contradicted yourself. Now you say you just don't care, which is nothing.
I told
more
you
than
that in
a
the
cop-out.
beginning, from the
It's a
very
cop-out.
beginning.
It's
From
a
the very
cop-out because you see your party doing evil stuff.
I see
and
your
you
party
don't
doing
have-
evil stuff.
and
Dr.
instead of
Fauci is the
standing
most
up,
evil man.
You see your party doing evil stuff, and you don't have the courage to stand up and call it out for what it is. So your cop-out excuse is, I don't care. That's childish.
So I'm supposed to be fake outraged about what the Democrats tell me to be fake outraged about.
You're supposed to be consistent to your morals and values.
I don't care what you guys
with
are stuck
political
there
violence,
about
though?
fake
Is that
outrage
ever
about
okay?
January 6th.
No
Stay
matter-
right there. We're going to take the White House. We're going to take the governorship of Ohio. We're going to keep taking more seats while y'all
You're
keep
not
being
going to
fake
take
outraged.
Your
anything,
candidate
Tarris.
was almost assassinated.
Tarris, you're
twice.
not taking
Y'all gonna
anything.
we're gonna
Your
keep winning
candidate
elections.
was
We're gonna keep
almost
winning elections. Y'all gonna keep
assassinated
being mad and be calling
Political
racism,
violence
outrage.
is serious. Like, your candidate was almost assassinated twice. Political violence
And still
is
won.
serious. What?
And
you
he
say?
still won. And he still
It
won.
ain't-
The people
it's not
spoke.
about
It's a
the
spiritual
victory.
warfare.
It's
God
not
has
about
spoken.
that, 'cause
God has
tomorrow is
spoken.
not promised to nobody. But I'm just saying there's people in Congress that have been shot at and have impacted their life tremendously. So I'm just saying, like, we can't come to a place where people who are outright committing political violence, and then you have a president that just kind of give the get out of jail card and say it's okay.
I might lose you here, TNT. I might lose you right here. Do you not think that
you did these
assassination
things,
attempt was
then a
orchestrated?
Public, or
Let her
the
finish,
supporters
let her
say it's okay, and then to call them hostages in the midst of like real hostages from Israel and Gaza, that's in real acts of war, and comparing them to those individuals, these individuals that committed crimes, and calling them, I mean, it's such an insult. Like, really? But you okay with it?
Do you think that assassination attempt? Do you really think that Trump getting shot in the ear? You buy that?
That speaks to our
buy
purpose.
that?
Like,
You buy that?
you heard some of these
Okay.
people that have
We
received
can't even-
pardons, the first thing
Okay,
they're
cool.
going to do is get a gun. Had the sentencing went through, they was charged federally, so they wouldn't have never been able to been gun owners. Now they have, beside the ones the 14 people that were commuted, everyone else, they could be gun owners again. And these are dangerous, violent people that had no issues with coming to our nation's capital, committing violence and looking for people. So why would you not be concerned? You could be at one of Trump's rallies one day, and if they just flip and change their mind about how they feel about Trump, or they don't like something he said, or they don't like what Ramaswamy say, or whatever, they feel like encouraged to just like go and take law into their own hands, like vigilante justice. And everyday people can be hurt. That can't be okay. And what he did yesterday was deplorable. We should be speaking on this loudly and condemning this, and more people should be condemning what he did.
And the more you guys speak up on it, and the more you guys raise awareness to it, the more
people
elections
will
you guys are going to
understand that we
lose.
got a
More
crooked
elections you
office.
guys are going to lose.
More
And the
people
more
will
you're going to lose,
understand
the
they made a
great that you guys
mistake.
had, it's going to be gone. And
More
we can
people-
argue about it all you want to.
More
Election
people will
results
be
matter.
voting differently the second time around. So yes, we won't be silent on it. You want us to be, I know.
We'll see. We'll
But
see.
we won't. Well,
I don't want
we
you to
will
be. I don't want
We
you to be.
will
I want black people to move forward. I don't
I
want black
do
people to
too.
keep
I
staying in
want
the
us
we
to-
shall overcome
want
victim
everyone to
mentality. I want us
survive
to
and
keep moving
thrive.
forward.
I really hope
And we
that he
can do it. We
go
can do it
and
without
fight
being
this.
partisan.
That would be
We can
great.
do it bipartisan.
Huh. Interesting. I think that Trump releasing those 1,500 individuals, and in general, I kind of kept my eye on as the cases were coming in and I was reporting on it. In general, I think those people were treated extremely fairly, a lot more fairly than other people who might have committed other crimes. And Trump pardoning them and commuting a sentence for like 6 other individuals is a warning shot. It endangers the lives of people in this country. What you've just told these individuals is yes to more political violence. Some of these people were already on the watch lists as domestic terrorists. You've now released them back into the population. Unfortunately, and I don't wish this, God, I don't wish it at all. Hope it doesn't happen, but I can foresee a lot of people getting hurt, a lot of people losing their lives. And the other thing is, and we talked about this months and months ago, now that Trump has made this move, Trump is on a whole nother level in the minds of some of these MAGA people. He is beyond the president. He is their Martin Luther King. And I've said this before. I know people thought I was crazy, but this move right here has solidified him on a level in hearts and minds of people in this country that I don't think that few people have ever really experienced. It is something different. And now, what's to stop these individuals or other people who are watching January 6th like, well, I didn't want to get locked up for it, but I kind of got it in my heart to go commit violence too. All it's going to do is embolden them as well. Because for the next 4 years, they may feel as if whatever we do, if we do it in the name of MAGA, if we do it in the name of Trump, we might get a pardon from him or the next Republican president. And I think this sets a really terrible precedent for our country. It says all bad things, in my humble opinion.
On a even smaller elections, like on a state level or local level, like, I mean, now you're talking about in your own very city. And if somebody don't agree with the outcome of an election, what is keeping anyone from taking matters into their own hands and committing acts of violence? You know what I mean? And then feeling like, well, Trump will pardon me as long as he's in the White House, you know.
As long as we stay in scarcity
Absolutely.
mindset, we're never going to go nowhere. As long as we stay in what ifism,
No,
scarcity mindset,
Scarcity
mindset.
Tarris, the Republicans operate in that more than anybody. You don't sit there and talk about whataboutism and scarcity mentality like Republicans don't traffic in that politically. The Republicans traffic in that probably better than anybody. I mean, the whole whataboutism of what about Hunter Biden, you know, to get the heat off Donald Trump. You know what I'm saying? It's like there's all of this. What about Dr. Fauci instead of how badly Trump bungled the handling of it? There's always this whataboutism. And I'm not saying it doesn't happen on the other side either. What I'm saying is that the average person needs to get smarter. Let me ask you this. How does an executive order undoing the lowering of prescription drug costs for people help? How does it help people who look like you? How does it help somebody in your family who got diabetes, who can't afford insulin? How is that helping them reversing that Joe Biden policy? Because that's what Donald Trump did. That was one of his executive orders. Tell me how that makes sense. Who does that help?
I don't agree with everything that Donald. I don't agree.
Hey.
I don't agree with you're like picking out one specific.
I could go through Tarris. I could go through 10 or 15 different things, but you know what? You haven't even bothered to scrutinize and look at everything that Donald Trump has had. You know why? Because you don't care. All you care about is you won and what you think is going to come along with that. And you're not really paying attention to what is coming along with that. Here's one thing that Donald Trump says. that I do believe. He operates on this promises made, promises kept. And I will say this, the only reason why Donald Trump hasn't kept a lot of the promises that he made is because you had some conscientious people who stopped him from doing some of the things that he said he was going to do last time. He would have done them 4 years ago, but you had some people who told him, Mr. President, that's against the law. We can't let you do that. We're not going to let you do that. Otherwise, he would have kept a hell of a lot more promises. And I just pray, brother, that this is not the case. You know, Phil talked about me writing a negative piece and people showing up on my doorstep. Brother, I sincerely hope for you that the Proud Boys don't show up on your doorstep one day. But, you know, some of those Proud Boys that you don't
wish they would.
That you don't.
I'm in Kentucky.
Yeah.
I'm in Kentucky.
Guess what? Because guess what? When you shoot one of them, you better hope Donald Trump pardon you. But I doubt he will.
What do you guys think about? We haven't talked about this.
But like they say, F around and find out. And a whole lot of people about to F around and find out.
Oh yeah, they're gonna get exactly what they wanted, or at least what they thought they wanted. But what do you think about? Let's back up here. Let's talk about Snoop and Soldier Boy and Nelly. They took a lot of heat this week because they all performed at the inaugural ball, and people called them out. And in the case of Snoop, you know, he has some videos going back a few years ago, about 4 or 5 years ago, in which he was clearly anti-Trump and calling out people, other black entertainers that performed at his previous inauguration. And now here he is performing at the inauguration. A lot of people said that they sold out the community. They had a lot of problems with it. What's your take?
Let me go first with this one. You guys expect Snoop Dogg, who is a global phenomenon, the biggest superstar potentially in the United States of America, to give up his United States Olympic endorsements, all these things that he could have in jeopardy if he does not do these things for the sake of left-wing liberal cancel culture. That cracks me up.
I disagree with your premise.
That cracks me up. The cancel culture grip that the left had is gone. Nobody cares what you think. We're going to do whatever we want to do and watch us do it. And I want to hear y'all cry. I want to hear these liberal tears.
And again,
I appreciate the honesty.
Tarris is with a bit of his revisionist history as if liberals created cancel culture. I think we seem to forget a group called the Dixie Chicks who made some statements back in 2000 when George W. Bush was president, and it was conservatives who canceled the Dixie Chicks. So let's not get on this rewriting historical narrative that somehow or another liberals invented cancel culture. So
what happened to Bill Maher?
But it don't matter no more.
Entertainers
it don't matter no more.
Crosshairs of politics.
I've never had a problem with cancel culture.
Let me say
one thing. And let's not forget about our brothers who raised their glove fists at the Olympics and how they had their medals stripped of them and how they couldn't get jobs when they came back to the United States. I think that was a little bit of cancer culture too.
And don't forget Colin Kaepernick.
Twisted that cancel culture is a liberal invention.
So cancel culture, all Nelly has to do and all anybody from MAGA has to do is get on there and say, you hear about the left-wing liberals, or they're trying to cancel Nelly. They'll get on there and they'll spend so much money on his iTunes account. They'll break the internet trying to fight against y'all. So that means the left wing has lost their grip on about everything. It is reality, social media influence, elections, the presidency, the White House, the House, the Senate, the Supreme Court. You lost your influence in the media. You're losing it all. I love seeing this meltdown of the Democratic Party. Like, oh my God, Donald Trump's so bad, and this person's so bad. Y'all need to be thinking about Vance 2028.
I want you to say we got to save these videos because at the end of 4 years, I
ain't been wrong yet.
I'm content to sit back and watch it.
Laugh now, cry later.
Yeah, I'm content to sit back and watch it.
So I take it that Tarris has no problem with Nelly. You had no issue with them performing. Okay. What about you, TNT? What's your take?
Get that money.
You got to stand for something or fall for anything. And so that is what Snoop and Soulja Boy and Nelly, what they're facing black culture. You know what I'm saying? And black culture is holding their feet to the fire, you know, because contrary to belief, majority black women and black men voted for Kamala Harris. Okay. And so they're just saying, knowing the man that Trump is and everything that he has done, how could you? You know, Trump can keep his Hulk Hogan's and his Kid Rocks and all of them. You know what I mean? They didn't have to. You know, they had a choice. And if it's about the money, just say that. The Soldier Boy look like it is. You know what I'm saying? You know, some broke boy stuff. But, you know, I hope it's worth it. Because in the end, you know, it looked like the culture, the community is pulling your card. You may not be able to move in the same way and have that same kind of respect. Respect is everything. You could be famous and not respected. You know what I'm saying? I mean, look at OJ and everything else. Everything and all the accomplishments and things you could throw it away just like that on just a decision. And even if it's a political decision. But in this case, when you're dealing with someone that is so diabolical and so outright, you know, narcissist, racist, and everything else, and just to tell you in your face that he don't care about your people and your community, and you support that by doing the Chuck and Jive entertainment, and especially Snoop, you is caught on video criticizing other people in the same sense, and you turn around and do the same thing. Like, people wouldn't pull that information out, and then what make it so bad on Twitter, Elon Musk took that same video and he dogged them. He dogged them like, oh, look how times change. I mean, like, wow.
Yeah,
People change. People are allowed to change. That's what we do as Americans.
Change is in Ching-a-ling.
Change
is in Ching-a-ling.
Isn't that what Obama said? Hope and change. Hope and change. He's allowed to change.
Hope and get that change. Hope and get that change.
I was an alcoholic. I was a drunk. I look like Soldier Boy. I look like Soldier Boy 7 years ago.
You're Soldier Boy.
Soldier Boy. I look
Here's
like
what I think,
and he ain't broke. He's just got some problems, but he ain't broke at all. He's rich, a rich black man. But he might look
that. He was rich. He wouldn't have did it.
He's rich.
Now he was rich. He wouldn't have took the money.
By the way, I got a factual correction.
Here's what I think about it.
Snoop Dogg holding more than him.
I've thought a long time about this since this came up, and I have several thoughts on it. My first thought is, who the hell cares what Soldier Boy think politically? I mean, when I read even his response to it, I'm like, this is not anybody that I'm going to for intellectual thought to inform me on the issues. There's nothing that Soldier Boy could bring to the table that would influence me in thought one way or the other. The brother might make a song that might make me move and dance, come up with a dance move that I might like. That's about as much as I need or want from Soldier Boy. Same thing with Nelly. Same thing with Snoop Dogg. Now I understand that because of the platform that they have, they're celebrities, and so they bring with them followers, and with that influence. And some people will listen to people like that simply because they are who they are. I think if you are one of those people that fall into that category, that you are willing to listen to what a celebrity says just because they're a celebrity, then I think like you need to evaluate sort of your mental and the process that you come to make conclusions. I mean, what Soldier Boy, Nelly, or any of them says is no more relevant, it should be no more impactful or insightful than what we're offering here on the podcast today. Theirs is just one opinion out of millions. And so I think the only reason why we put so much value on where they perform and how and who they perform in front of is simply because of the reach that they have. I would say this, I get it from an entertainment, from an artist standpoint. You know, you perform in front of audiences, you get gigs, and I get that in some cases you fall on lean times and money is hard and you got to do what you got to do to put food on the table and pay your bills. But this goes back to the conversation that we had a few podcasts ago where I made the statement when we were talking about Joe Burrow and taking a photo. And this is where I said, these are the times that we live in now, that whether you take a photo, whether you show up at somebody's event, you are going to be judged and your motivations are going to be judged and you are going to have to give an answer for it. I don't care who it is. I see people on my timeline who was at the ball from Middletown, my hometown, a lot of people that I'm friends with who got invited and who went to see JD Vance. And they are commenting about how people are unfriending them because they're seeing them in pictures there. And so these are the times that we live. So there is consequences with who you show up with, like it or not. And you got to go into this understanding this. So for Nelly, Soulja Boy, Snoop, for any of them to have performed at Trump and not have been prepared for the backlash that they received, or feel like, oh, this ain't fair, this ain't right, bruh. If you are not attuned enough to know that this is the field we're playing on now, then
shame on you.
Just ain't paying attention. I ain't saying it's right. I'm not saying it's fair. I'm saying that's where we are right now.
I'm saying it is right and it is fair, because if you morally oppose someone or someone's actions and you sing before them, or you even show up at their event, or you stay at their hotel, in my view, that is an endorsement of sorts. It's like, I have a good friend, he's a pastor, and he, on his newsletter, he had a nice picture of him and J.D. Vance smiling, and he said, I'm not endorsing him, it was just a guy to guy. Yeah, if he has a lot of followers, people who look up to him, and when they see that, they see an endorsement. And I mean, this may sound kind of silly. If I had the chance to stay at a Trump hotel, or I wanted to go there, I wouldn't do it, because to me it would violate my conscience.
Well, Phil, let's just put it like this, okay? Because this came up again a couple of podcasts ago, so I'm trying to keep us all consistent. Okay. You made the case that out of statesmanship, out of honesty, you would shake hands with somebody, and I can't
that's
even
different.
remember.
I think that's
no,
different.
No, it is no different, because anybody who saw you doing that, shaking that hand, taking a picture, would say, Phil, that's an endorsement.
No, it's different.
Explain to me how it's different, Phil.
I'll explain to you. There's a difference between supporting someone and being polite and having manners. Okay.
So if I take a picture with Donald Trump and I'm saying, hey, because this was the debate with Joe Burrow. If Donald Trump walks up to you and says, hey, let's take a picture, and Joe Burrow says, I'm being polite, I'm going to take this picture with this guy, but Nathan and others have said, oh, you can't do that. That's an endorsement. See, this is what I'm saying.
Why don't you let me explain the distinction, if you would?
Okay. What's the difference between politeness and support?
Will you let me explain?
Okay.
If Donald Trump wants to shake hands with me, I will shake hands with him. And if somebody takes a picture, that's fine. But I'm not going to get in line to have a picture with Donald Trump. Okay. And maybe you can say I think it is a fine line. But for example, I am not going to pay to I'm not going to spend money to stay at a Trump hotel, because I am essentially enriching. I'm not just being polite. I am enriching someone who I believe is corrupt and is ripping off the American people. And so you can draw these fine distinctions. Oh, what if somebody takes a picture? The point is, I think if we are strongly morally opposed to what someone is doing, okay, yeah, be polite, don't be rude, but don't do anything that suggests an endorsement. To me,
and what I'm going to say is it ain't going to make a difference once people see you shaking hands, once they see that picture. You can come back and say, you can come back, Phil, this is the climate that we're living in. I'm just trying to be honest here.
I don't care about the climate. I don't
go by
the climate.
Because you're going to say, well, I
might be a Republican.
I didn't wait in line to shake Donald Trump's hand, so that's not an endorsement. I didn't spend my money to get in line to shake his hand, and people are going to still say, well, you shouldn't have been saying,
but so what?
So his hand.
You keep
that was an endorsement. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong, Nate.
Can I say something? You keep talking, Kevin, about, oh, this is the way things are. This is the climate.
It is.
Excuse me. I don't care. Okay.
Okay.
Excuse me.
So then consider that on the other side.
Do you take your actions? You act based on the climate? Is that what you base your actions on?
No, I'm just telling you what the reality is. We're talking about how people are responding to these artists performing.
I know what reality is. I can assure you that, not that I'm complaining about it, but I've taken some positions amongst my fellow evangelicals, my fellow Republicans, clearly against the climate. And I don't give a crap, okay? Because I followed my conscience. And so to say, well, this is the way things are, I don't care the way things are. If you follow your conscience, you don't care what the climate is.
You're missing my point entirely.
I don't think
Phil.
I am.
You're missing my point entirely. What I'm saying to you is, it don't matter what your intentions are. If people feel like you're supporting something by how they see you show up with somebody they don't think
I get
you
you. I get your point.
with,
I get your
then
point.
you're gonna
What
be
I'm saying
judged
is,
by that.
I get
Am
your
I
point.
wrong?
That I get your point, but I am not going to live my life by people's perceptions or the climate. I'm going to do what I believe is right, and screw what the climate says. Screw it.
So then could an artist say? Hey, screw the climate. I'm not saying that I support Donald Trump, but I'm just going to get this bag. I need the
That's
money.
what they said.
Yeah,
That's what Soulja Boy said.
But they're being vilified. So what if I don't care? What if I don't have any political leanings? What if I'm not particularly morally offended or tied to anything? What if I don't give a damn about politics? And now you're judging me based on me showing up to get a bag?
I am judging you because
so then on the flip side, if y'all show up in a photo and y'all get ran on Instagram or Twitter, then you shouldn't have nothing to say. Just take it.
Well,
turn around and take
it. It's a little different, Kevin, and I feel where you're talking about, because I was one of the people that said I would shake Trump's hand as well. If someone extend their hand out to you, you should politely,
polite.
But it's a world of difference when you sit up here and you seek it, or you're getting paid for it, or it'd be different. Like, oh, I'm like standing in line, and But if it just became a situation and he's just like, oh, hey, Nicole, it's just like, I wouldn't just be like, you know what I mean? Like what happened to Kamala Harris, or like you weren't there, and especially in reference to the title that he holds. But an example I'll give you also is that back when Trump had caught COVID, you remember that? Mm-hmm. And COVID was really bad. And a lot of people were dying. I prayed for him. Like I literally prayed that he make it. You know what I mean? Despite everything I know about him. And maybe that comes from my very Christian upbringing. If you know my mom, Sister Bridge, very religious person, you know what I mean? But I don't want the man to die. You know what I mean? I might feel a whole lot of ways and everything else, but the humanity in me, he may not feel the same way about me, but I don't feel that much animus toward him where I can't be civil, where I can't, offer a prayer and hope, you know what I'm saying, that he survived something tragic. And so even after that, I thought he would be more humble, and he came back more, vengeful, and just the same with the assassination. You thought that it would humble him, and it's just like, and the more I see him, and the more it's just like, you know what I mean? But at the same time, like Phil is saying, I'm not going to change my moral ground and what I stand on and what I believe makes me a good and righteous individual. I don't have to change that for someone that, I don't agree with on every level of what they do. It's not a good person. Fine. You know what I mean? I'm not going out of my way to do anything and be around that. And if people snap a shot of me shaking hands and they want to interpret whatever they want to interpret, they can. But I'll make it very, very clear, you know what I'm saying? And they can see the whole history of what I stand on and what I believe in, and what that it is nothing like what you think. You know what I'm saying? This is me being a polite individual in this circumstance, but I can explain myself. And if people don't want to accept it, fine. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, a lot of these individuals, they found themselves in that situation, and they're not even trying to explain like reasons why or whatever. So, and they don't have to. They don't have to explain anything to anybody. But I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, for me personally, cancel culture came up, and when it comes up, I've always, I hear people say cancel culture is dead. No, cancel culture should never die. I mean, cancel culture to me is just an individual's choice in terms of where you want to spend your money and spend your time. So if XYZ person or XYZ corporation does something or aligns themselves with something that you don't like, as a consumer, I thought this was the free market. As a consumer, you have every right to decide whether you want to patronize that business or patronize Snoop Dogg. My issue with these three gentlemen, Snoop Dogg, Nelly, and Soulja Boy, is kind of similar. So on one hand, you're an artist and you get paid to perform. I get it. This is what you do. Whether it's Trump or Kamala Harris or Barack Obama, you get paid to perform. This is how you eat. And I can never knock how another man or woman make their honest money. That's how you make your honest money. Great. What I got a little upset with and what kind of ticked me off is when I heard them trying to explain it. Of the three of them, I give Soldier Boy the most credit because he just came out and said, I did it for the check. And so what am I supposed to say? I got nothing to say. He said they paid him a bag. They paid him a bag. Now, I wouldn't do it if it were me because I'm just built a little differently. And I would hope that I would be in a position financially where I can make those kind of decisions. Maybe they all broke and their backs against the wall and they came in with 100 stacks. 100 stacks to perform for 30 minutes or an hour? That's hard to turn down. I understand that. But for Nelly, some of his explanations have just been outrageous. I'm like, bruh, keep your mouth closed. Just say you did it for the bag and leave it like that. And then for Snoop Dogg, you know, for him, and again, he may have already explained this. He may not. He might be like, I'm Snoop Dogg. I ain't explaining nothing. And if that's what it is what it is. But what I would be looking for from him is for him to explain the difference. So, you know, let me play a clip for you. This is him back in September
all
of
the people
2000.
that President Trump disrespected.
2000, I'm sorry,
Women,
September 2020.
Look at it,
gays,
Beijing.
transgenders, blacks, Mexicans, Asians, and now veterans. Seem like he disrespecting every color in the world and everything that ain't what he is, which is a racist. So with that being said, the people that voted for him got exactly what they wanted, and he gave them what he said he was gonna give them. So the next motherfucking president, you better tell us what we gonna get for your vote.
Is it playing for you? Were you guys able to hear that?
No, we didn't hear it.
Yeah, I heard it.
I heard it.
Okay. Did the audience get a chance to hear it? So basically, he was going in about Trump. This is 2020 or 2020. There's another video, and It.Nicole Taylor brought this up, in which he is literally talking about black people performing at the inauguration for Trump. He called them, I forget the word that he used, but he used some kind of term. And I'm like, bro, just explain to us how you got from there to where you are today. And I don't want to hear the media lied to me like Stephen A. Smith. It's got to make sense. It's got to be intelligent. Does he owe that to me? No. Now, it's my right as an individual consumer to decide what I think about what he did and to do whatever I want to do. I might decide I'm never going to download another Snoop song. I might decide the products he'd endorse, I'm never going to purchase them. That's my right. It's a free market as an individual consumer. So that's how I look at it. It's always been people like there just willing. I mean, it's people that made money with the Nazis.
Yeah.
It's people that made money with the Nazis. There's always been those capitalism. There's always been people that would take chaos and tragedy and pain or whatever, and they see a way to making a buck, and they're going to jump on it. Black, white, Jewish, really makes no difference.
Nathan, you're spot on in everything that you said. And I think like what you were saying is not different from what I am saying. And I think in many ways you made my point, is that even if Snoop gave you an explanation, it might work for you, but it might not work for It.Nicole, might not work for Phil. My point is that once you wade into those waters and people have already made a judgment about how you show up and your appearance and whether it is support or not, that is beyond your ability to control. That's my point. My point is when you show up, no matter what your intentions, whether you're trying to be polite, whether you standing on business, whatever it is, if you show up in the wrong place with the wrong person publicly,
yeah, but
you are going to be judged. You are going to be judged, and people are going to deal with the wrong place. How they're going to deal with you how they see fit.
You act like Snoop Dogg somebody handed him a microphone or something. Oh my gosh, I didn't think I was going to be asked.
It doesn't matter. You're missing my point, Phil. You're missing my point. You're missing my point. The circumstances of how you wound up there don't matter in the social.
They do matter.
It matters to you. It matters to you, but you have no control over that.
You're exactly right. It does matter to me. That's
right. I'm talking, Phil. You guys are completely missing my point.
Okay, I want to hear.
You have once that hits. Again, let's just say
he was responsible for it.
Let's just take the Joe Burrow photo. Let's just use the Joe Burrow photo with Donald Trump as an example. It does not matter how he wound up in them circumstances.
It does matter.
Does not matter what his intention was.
It does matter.
That is already out in the public sphere, and people have already made their judgment.
You're just saying what's popular. You're going with whatever's popular. The fact is, Snoop Dogg had the opportunity to say, no, I'm not going to say.
Then why are we even talking about this then? If it doesn't matter, why are we even talking about it? If it doesn't matter, why are we even talking about it then?
Well, I mean,
if it has no impact, why are we even talking about it? If
we're not talking about Joe Burrow no more, because that didn't matter. And maybe because Joe Burrow isn't black, but like I keep saying, Snoop Dogg is having to answer to the culture, to our community right now. We're holding his feet to the fire. And then the other thing with Joe Burrow, I don't know if there was more in detail about that situation. He's a kind of like an athletic celebrity himself. Well, Trump maybe wanted a picture with him or vice versa. Who knows? I don't know if any, insight was given to that, but people have just like passed that ball and they don't really care about it anymore. So, I mean, that didn't stick, but this for Snoop may stick. You know what I'm saying? Nelly, this may affect his record sales, at least in our community. So, but he may do well with the majority community. He might be embraced there. Maybe that's where, he want to go. Most of them want to get bigger that way anyway, but Snoop is probably already there. He had Martha Stewart and everything else. But at the same time, he may lose a core base, which is our community. And that's what he has to reconcile and deal with.
See,
can I say something on Joe Burrow's?
Ahead,
just real quick, it's the Joe Burrow's. It was at a UFC fight. Who owns UFC? Dana White. Come on, y'all. Hey, this is like elementary school.
Who do you go with? Joey Bosa.
That's what I'm saying.
Big Trumpster. So yeah, I mean that's pretty much obvious.
I mean, come on, and y'all are like, "Oh, is he a Trump supporter? Is he a Trump supporter?" Read between. This
absolutely is. Birds of a feather flock together. Yeah, this matters. I mean, because it's normalizing this guy once again. And then what bothered me about Nelly is he's gonna first I want to say shout out to Willie D Live. Willie D Live. I don't know that brother, but I've been, a sub of his for a while. He does great stuff from the Ghetto Boys. And he got an exclusive because he got a chance to talk with Nelly first. So, props to him and what he's doing with his digital media platform. But I thought he did if you go back and watch some of that interview, I didn't watch all of it. He's pushing Nelly. He's pushing back on Nelly like, nah. And Nelly sounded like ignorant as I don't know what. Just
but see, that's subjective, like, wow. Nathan. I think he's.
Yeah, it is subjective.
I thought Nelly sounded amazing.
From my perspective, he sounded ignorant to me.
I
right?
thought Nelly sounded great, and Willie D.
Okay, great.
Willie D
sounded ignorant.
Willie D is like a camaraderie, or what do you call it?
Camaraderie.
Camaraderie, or what's it called? Same shit.
Limerence.
No, it's we're in the same field. Nelly, I think, sounded better than Willie D. I think because Willie D was like, we're in a slave. This is a slave country. We do live in a KKK country. The majority of us do not feel like we live in a KKK country. And that's what Nelly was saying. Nelly was like, I didn't get a call from Kamala Harris when she was spending that $1.5 billion. He didn't get no call, and he would have got the call. He probably would have went and performed.
Kind of implies that he's ready to be sold. Okay,
and y'all keep canceling him, and I hope y'all do. I hope that the black culture. I hope black culture holds Nelly to the fire so much.
Oh, it's going on right now.
That it lights a fire underneath MAGA and the rest of them country ass people who listen to Nelly anyway because he's already got song with Florida Georgia Line, Tim McGraw. It's just a dream. He's crossed over anyway. He does not care what black culture thinks.
I would have more respect for Nelly if he said one or two things. I did it for the money, or I'm down with Trump. Now here's what he did say, and I want to get your thoughts on this. What Nelly did say is he said, I was taught to respect the office of the president. He said that he accepted the invitation to perform because he respects the office. What do you think about that?
Nelly is a very intelligent human being. Nelly, and I'll tell you another one, Plies. I don't know if you know this or not, Plies was valedictorian of his high school class. So he puts on this whole...
I like Plies.
Plies is an extremely intelligent person. And so is Nelly. Nelly's college.
That's on Plies. Not so much on Nelly.
Well, that's subjective again. I like Nelly. I believe
Nelly's saying that he feels like he respects the office of the president.
I think it don't matter that he said
he does respect the office of the president, and he respects the office of the president, and he respects that Donald Trump won.
I believe he did. That's part of the reason why he did it. But going back to my point, it ain't gonna matter because the court of public opinion is going to judge him on the fact that he showed up for Trump, regardless of what his intentions or what he thought, what his moral convictions are.
But let me ask you this, Phil. Let me ask you this, Phil. Would you put how you feel about shaking a man's hand in the same file as respecting the office of the president? Isn't that in the same file?
Well, let me put it this way. I was just thinking
Isn't
about
that the
this.
same family tree?
Just that. To me, I would not have a problem. Let's say I was a supporter, I don't know, of whoever ran against Ronald Reagan, Walter Mondale or Gore, Al Gore. If I was a supporter of them and the other guy won, in those cases, even though I didn't agree with their policies, if I was a performer, would I perform out of respect for the office? Yeah, I would. I happen to think, and you guys may disagree, I think that this guy right now is in a different sphere, okay, than a George Bush or whatever. Yes. I think Trump is. I think Trump is more. It is more than just, I don't agree with his policies on whatever civil rights or whatever the heck it is. This is a guy who, forgive me, I believe is inherently evil, immoral, and corrupt, and is undermining our democracy. I wouldn't say that about George Bush, either of the Bushes, Ronald Reagan. I may disagree with some. So
you wouldn't say that, Phil, but I can remember a time back in 2000 when, and again, Donald Trump is a new age Republican that took it to a different level. But I remember black people were no fan of George W. Bush. I remember when famously Kanye West stood up and said that George W. Bush.
So what's your point? People. What's your point?
Like
and he was I'm just saying, times change, but
I don't understand your point. My point is
people would have been vilified within the black community. They would have seen support for George W. Bush. It's different. I'm not comparing and saying George W. Bush.
Not on the level.
I'm saying proportionally, given the time frame that we are in, we were in a different culture, a different time in the country then. But George W. Bush was not popular amongst black people.
That's not the point. Neither was Reagan popular among, let's say, African Americans. But that's not the point. The point
I know a lot of black people thought George W. Bush was evil. I know that.
All right,
in fact, Phil, there were probably some black people who thought you were evil when you was in office.
Okay, but yeah, I know, and I heard that quite a bit.
Republicans are different. I'm just telling you,
were right,
different time.
Yeah, well, though Nathan will stick up for me because of that infamous interview that we talked about, which was music to my ears. But I continue to maintain that there is a difference between even strong policy disagreements and someone who frees and pardons 1,000 violent offenders, someone who lies every time he opens his mouth, someone who's basically, as somebody said here, selling the White House to the highest bidders. There is, to me, a difference there. And I can't say if you said the black community didn't like him, or I can't speak for them, but I know for myself there's a distinction between Donald Trump and the Republican presidents or Democratic presidents who preceded him.
I understand why you would say that, Phil, and I truly do. And I'm not just trying to be contrarian here, but I do say you got to look at things within the context and within the framework of the times. Like, you can talk about strong policy disagreements, but I think within the black community, policy is personal. Because when you talk about policy, you're talking about people's lives. You can't separate a conversation about what is policy from actually things that are impacting black people's lives. So when you start talking about strong policy disagreements, it's not just about the policy that you're arguing on. You're arguing about people's livelihoods, and I think that's one of the things that politicians don't get. You want to talk about the academics of arguing policy, but behind every policy there are people who are being impacted, whose lives are either being improved or whose lives are being hurt. And I think that's why we're at a point where people are taking the politics so intensely and they're assigning values to politicians now, because your policy is directly related to your this is why we're so upset about Donald Trump. Yes, it's who he is, but he's also enacting policy that is reflecting some of who he is,
It's not just the policy.
going after LGBTQ people. So part of the reason why people are feeling so strongly is this is a values thing.
Yeah. It's not just the policies. I mean, that's a strong part of it, but it's the supporters. It's the way the campaign is being promoted, all the divide and division and the, words that are said against transgender community, LGBT community, Black people. I mean, everybody is, the other. And then this is a party that their supporters is unapologetic oath keepers and Proud Boys. Like they are these are extremists.
They're white supremacists.
Yeah, they're white supremacists. They're extremist groups, and so we know, what they stand for. So when it's just like, why would anyone side, or especially if you are a person of color or the people that they advocate against, why would you stand with them? And so I think that's the bigger issue for our culture, is just like, the type of people that support this party outright, and you're going to perform for them. Like for us, that's like a stab in the back. It's worse for Black people to stand with them than even white people. You just like, okay, they're just standing together, united on whatever. But when it's someone of color, even the Hispanics that went over there, it's just like you're going against your own interests. It don't make sense. And so it's going to be some backlash to that, more for someone like Trump than a Bush, I think, because this is just like Phil says, on another level. He's on another level of and then to just bring these people and know what they do, act like he don't, put on the blinders, like, oh no, I never heard of the oath keepers. Yeah, you know what I mean? But stand by and stay clear, whatever, and then you just pardon everybody knowing exactly what they did. Just like, I don't care. I don't care what they did. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like his militia on the side waiting to impact and do vigilante justice on the community. That can't be okay. It shouldn't be okay with any group of people. But for us, someone that's actively advocating against us, going against our policy, won't enforce a qualified immunity for the George Floyd Justice Policing Act. You're a steady resistance to everything that we're trying to push forward for equality and fairness and justice. Why would you stand and perform or do anything for that side? That's what we're trying to understand. So we got to hold people's feet to the fire. 2025 on to the next couple of elections, people's feet are going to be more than held to. People are going to be called out. I don't care if people like it. You know what I'm saying? It's a little bit different now. I feel like the climate is definitely different now.
Yeah, and that's kind of you guys, the more you talk, I think the more you kind of come around saying what I have been saying all along.
That's one perspective.
So here's my question. The previous president is how do we equate? So
Reagan.
So there's no, I guess here's my question. So there's no nuance between standing with somebody and, because this is my concern, and this is where I say you get into a particularly slippery slope when you start judging people on this. So if I perform in front of somebody, then that means that I stand with them, that I support their views, and I support what they do. So that's different than me coming out and saying, hey, this is my person, this is who I voted for, I endorse what they're doing. So and again, this is just going to my point. So just simply showing up and receiving some type of benefit from somebody who is in the house circle is enough for you to have been co-opted.
It's been people that have asked for cease and desist, like, do not play my music.
Isaac Hayes. And
I've never seen that for any other candidate. It might have happened before, but people are outright saying, do not play my music. You know what I mean? So, I mean, this has been a steady thing going on with artists every time he campaigns. It's just like nobody wants to be associated with him. And sometimes he just, unapologetically use their music anyway. So for people that are willfully willing to perform, then that's just saying, like, you overtly, I'm okay, I support.
because everyone
But
else.
what if you like Soldier Boy and you like, hey man, I needed the bread? You know, I mean,
Then
to Nathan's
Then you
point,
say that.
I mean,
Yeah.
okay, but still, my point is, even, and he did say that, and he's still catching hell, I guess, at which as you say, Nathan, is the right of every person to decide what they want to do with their dollars. That's not what I'm arguing against. What I'm arguing against is, or not even what I'm arguing against. What I'm saying is that as you show up, you're going to be judged, rightly or wrongly, by society where you show up, and people are going to assign how you show up, whether that's a friendly, innocent handshake, whether that's a photo at a UFC, that if you show up and it gets public, there are going to be consequences. That's the only thing I'm saying.
Yeah, but like it's always been like that, though. It's always been like that.
I don't think so.
It's always been like that. People have always made value judgments. It's a value judgment.
Yeah, people make value judgments, but now it's value judgments
based upon who you're associated with.
We talk about cancel culture as we're talking about it. We're talking about career ending, cut your money source off, impact you in a negative way. That's the right
of every consumer, though. Nothing has really changed.
I'm not arguing against that, Nathan. I'm just making the statement that that's a fact. That's the cost. That's the cost of doing business in these environments today if you show up in the wrong place.
But it's always been the cost of business. I'm just saying, I don't believe that cancel culture is anything new. It's always been like that with consumers. If you do something I don't like, or something that associated with your product or your services, and it doesn't match my values, it's always been like this. I got a right to say I don't want to spend my money there anymore.
It's amplified today. I don't think
anybody amplified today, and you're right.
Would disagree that it's amplified.
Absolutely, I agree with it, and that's the environment in which Snoop, Nelly, and Soldier Boy made this decision. Before they made this decision, they knew what it was. They knew that we live in highly politically charged times. So when they did that, they can't get mad because their audiences, and in most cases, Black people helped to build up Snoop. Black people had Snoop's back way back on Doggy Style and when he was on trial. We've been supporting Snoop for 20-some years. We supported Soldier Boy.
I guess my only point is the explanation should matter.
So the point I'm trying to make is a lot of these people have invested their time, their money, downloads. We've been buying this culture and buying these individuals who are a part of this culture for years. And now you're going to do this? And then you go online and you make these statements. People have a right to be outraged about it. My thing is, let's take it back to Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow never put out a statement. And so when you don't put out a statement, that lets me create whatever I think it is in my mind. It's real simple. I'll give Soldier Boy, and Nelly, and I don't know what Snoop has said to this point, a little bit of credit. At least they've made a statement and tried to respond to it. And like I told you, so far, Soldier Boy has kept it the realest. He said, I did it for the bag. I wouldn't have did it, but who can, I can't criticize you. Nelly's talking some nonsense about how he was taught to believe in the office of the presidency and it's an honor. Like, man, please. I mean,
see, that's exactly what I'm talking about there, though. That reaction right there is exactly what I'm talking about, Dave. I love this because y'all just proving my point.
But I'm not sure I don't think anybody's ever challenged your point, though. No one's ever challenged your point. And what is your point?
No, my point is, because we've talked about this in previous podcasts. And my point is the hypocrisy of how we talk about it is that sometimes it's okay. Hey, this is what you should do. This is presidential. This is classy. So when Obama is chatting it up with Donald Trump at Jimmy Carter's funeral, that's classy. That's statesman. That's what you're supposed to do. That's the appropriate thing. When Nelly says, I respect the office of the presidency, so I'm going to perform at Donald Trump's thing, that's different somehow. So how is it different in saying that? How is it different in saying that you should respect the office, or Joe Biden inviting Donald Trump into the Oval Office and having a conversation with him? We criticized him for that, right? He was criticized for that.
No, I thought he should have kept it real with him.
Yeah, you criticized him. You should have stood on business, is what you said.
He should have said something to him right there into his face.
So I guess my point is, and Nathan, you've been pretty consistent. I'll say that. But there have been others on this podcast where
no, hold it. No name.
I don't know what you're talking about, sir.
When it comes to some of these issues,
Name a name. Name a name. Put a name.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm pulling the Tarris. I don't care.
Hey, pull a Kevin. Pull a Kevin and say you leave it.
Mhm.
Leave it.
Mhm.
Why am I on this show?
I know
I'm tired
you
of getting
care.
ganged up on here.
You're
I'm
tired
right
of
even
getting.
when I'm
You're
wrong.
tired of getting ganged up.
No, that's what
You
Kevin
don't
says.
know
Kevin,
ganged up until
No,
you
the
go
other
up in
Kevin.
Phil
That's what Kevin
Heimer's
says.
shoes.
That's
Kevin, the
hilarious.
other Kevin says that all the time.
Yeah, I think
Well,
it's out
I
there.
got to
He
get off
said-
here, but I wanted to make a point about you guys are saying about that. I want to give a shout out to you. I went to the NAACP luncheon yesterday in NKY, and they did a great, phenomenal job. But you're talking about showing up to places. As a black conservative, like I was talking about before, I felt uncomfortable, and certain politicians didn't take pictures with me, didn't even acknowledge me when I was in there because I'm a conservative inside that space. So it works both ways. And I understand why they didn't do it, because it would look bad for optics. If they're coming over there hugging on me and loving on me, a black conservative, when their teammate is over at the next table over there looking, what you doing over there talking to him for? So it's not just, it's more, we got to take the race out of it, because that's exactly how I felt in that situation, and being a black conservative sitting at that table, and people who I know, who I've served next to, walking right by me because they can't say nothing to me because I'm a black conservative.
What
Y'all
do you
funny in
guys?
Kentucky.
It's
I
true.
What do you
I'm
think
coming over to
about-
see you, TNT, because we're gonna make this thing work. Unless you don't want me
Okay,
working with
okay, you my
that.
buddy.
Hey,
I'm gonna
TNT,
change your
don't show
mind.
up in no pictures with Tarris. It's cool
I
on the
know.
podcast because you separated virtually. If I see you in a picture, now you know that's going. Hey man, listen.
Tarris, I'd be
Don't
proud to
check
have a picture with you, but
Porter
I
don't
think
check
you
me,
be
boo.
ready to take
I ain't scared. Like I
Hey,
ain't
but
afraid.
the thing, the
Like,
difference is between TNT, I think, and Joe
stand
Burrow. I
on it.
can't speak for TNT. Is that if you ask her, is it an endorsement? She'll tell you no or yes, depending on what it is. Joe never told us that.
Mhm.
He's still hiding from it, just hoping to go away, which it did, because people love football more than their own scruples and morals
It
and
has
values.
not
I
gone
get it.
away because you're keeping it alive, Nathan.
I'm gonna
As
try
long
my
as you
best.
Keep it alive.
Hey,
it has to go
every so often, I'm gonna make that post. Are y'all ready to admit? I've lost Facebook
Dana
friends
White.
over that.
Hey, I'll help you with the video, man. We can put the conspiracy together. Put Dana White up there. And
Tarris,
have
what is it with you and Dana White? You brought this guy's name up 5 times. He's just a UFC president.
thinking
He
that,
loves
bro.
Trump. I mean, I don't get the point.
See, that's what I'm talking about. See, that's what I'm talking about. That dichotomy alone, that way of thinking alone. When this guy wrote the script for the RNC, oh, he's no big deal. He's no big deal. Keep thinking that.
No, I didn't. I think he is a big deal. I was just kind of
Well, I'm
wondering
saying,
why
well,
you
you
keep
just
bringing
what
him up.
you just said. Why do you keep bringing him up? Why do you keep bringing up? He's no big deal. He is
No,
a big deal.
he is a big deal. No, he's a big
He's
deal.
running
a powerful
Meta
guy.
now.
Huh?
He's running the most
He's
powerful
not
social
running
media.
Meta now. He's not running Meta now. He's got a seat at the table. That don't mean he's running.
He's
Meta.
on the board of directors.
Right.
Okay. Are y'all on any board of directors?
Currently, I am not. No.
Okay.
I've been on boards. Yeah.
Okay. When you're on the board of directors, how
it is true they brought in Dana White.
How much
that
influence do you
Zuckerberg-
have on the board of directors? If you got Meta, if you got Mark Zuckerberg going to Mar-a-Lago, kissing the ring, and Trump saying, only way I'm going to let you play, little boy, because the interview that Trump did about Zuckerberg after he left, he said, Zuckerberg came and kissed my ring, the old weirdo, came up here kissing my weirdo. Call him a weirdo. He's coming over. He's
Is that what
dogging
you
these
want?
people. He's
Is
dogging
that-
these people. And he says, the only reason I'm going to
You
let you
like
play
this,
in this
huh?
game, if you let Dana White control what y'all are doing.
You seem
And I'm
to get
telling
some
y'all to
kind
play,
of,
and y'all like, oh, he's crazy. You're crazy. You're crazy. I'm telling you.
That's the
these
type of
puppets-
leader you want. That's the type
No,
of
it's not-
president. That's how a president. should
I
be.
look past that because I know he's got a Congress to deal
It's the
with.
range.
And I got told, I look past. He's got a Congress to deal with. He can do all this kind of stuff, but unless he gets it passed by the Congress and the House, he's got weights.
It sound like
That's why there's three
bunch of lapdogs
branches.
in the Congress. And
There's three branches of government, and he
what's gonna
doesn't
happen
run
with
it all.
you should know what's going to happen because it seems like a lot of people in this cabinet have like a pro crypto agenda. So what does it mean for that?
Okay, so the pro crypto agenda. Snoop Dogg actually performed at the crypto thing. He's got a gajillion dollars involved in crypto. He thinks y'all worried about cancel culture when you guys are false relevancy and something to Trump when it was a crypto. And so we're like I say, look at the shiny ball.
Confident.
Y'all take
It's
something
confident.
and run with it, and we're like, oh yeah, run with it, like Project 25. Oh, it's so yeah, run with it when we're y'all are running with that, and we're over here doing this. I've been saying that the entire time. Y'all are falling for the look at the shiny ball trick every single time. Yo, oh,
But
fake outrage, fake
the
outrage, fake outrage.
agenda.
We're over
Yeah,
here
he's
moving.
right. He's right. We're looking at
I'm
Project
telling you.
2025 where they're actually implementing it. That yeah, you're right. You guys are they're actually implementing Project 2025 while many liberals and Democrats are still talking about it with good reason, because now they're putting it into action.
I mean, Tarris, you act like it doesn't impact you in any kind of way. You don't feel impacted by any of this. And you don't feel like
I don't feel impacted by. I don't feel
you don't
impacted
impact
by
anybody that look like you. You don't care.
I'm personally involved though. You know, I'm doing every single day. I fight for the rights of black men every day with my actions, with my words, with my fruit,
Sound like you
with
want to
my
fight harder.
results. With my results, I fight for the right of black men and black
But it
people.
sounds like you want to
day.
fight harder. You want
Oh
the fight
yeah,
to be
I want to fight
for
harder. I
yourself.
want to unite. I want to unite with the Democrats, and I want us all to come together.
Really?
And I want us to fight together. That's what I want. But I don't want to compromise my just like y'all believe that this is spiritual warfare out there.
The word
I believe
compromise
this
is almost like a lost art, which Congress should be doing. You know, but definitely on the other side, if you continue to demonize everything that the other party do, just like in this conversation today, it's like everything's negative, everything is us versus them, and it can't be like that. And especially if our leader at the top, you know, has no humility and everything he has to say is something negative about the party that he is over. He is over both Republicans and Democrats, this entire country. And there is no enemies here, but he's making people in his own country like the enemy.
And from the beginning of this podcast,
talking about this like this is the NFL, like the party is like the
that's
NFL
what it is.
Thing. No, it's not.
In the beginning, since the beginning of this conversation, since the beginning of this podcast, I have been positive on Trump. Y'all see the inauguration? I was like, oh, I thought it was great. Y'all have been the one like, oh, that's the worst thing ever. I can't believe it. Did you see in this guy? Y'all have been the one who've been negative because you guys sound like sore losers. Same way I would say. Y'all sound like I sounded when Joe Biden won.
I can't help that. You know, we're not going to just like act like that isn't a factor. Pardoning criminals, it's kind of bad, you know.
Objective.
Objectively
Subjective.
Out. On day one, that's this president's priority. What I'm saying is that for him to be the leader of this country, he was supposed to have a speech that was more unifying. He's supposed to act in a more unifying way, and nothing that he has shown thus far all throughout his campaign since he has came into the existence of politics have been anything positive or unifying.
Okay, can I say this? I'm going to ask this question. Can I ask this question to all three of y'all? You know, I've got to get off here. If that's the case, if that's the case, how come the Republican Party tent is getting more full and the Democratic Party tent is getting less full? How come more people? How come more people are leaving the Democratic Party to come over to the Republican Party? How come?
First of all, can I say something as far as the statistics is that there are more people who are independents who consider themselves independents than either Republicans or Democrats in the country. So the largest, it's not a political party. It's not a political party, but there are more Americans who consider themselves independent. And that's usually why these elections generally tend to swing and hinge on how independent voters will make their assessments and judgments. And most independent voters are somewhere in the middle. I think the reality is that many independents are trying to look for someone who will be a unifier, which, you know, makes me question why some of them broke for Trump.
Race and gender.
Yeah, but again, you know, they're looking for people who are more towards the center. And I think the problem with both parties, Democrats and Republicans, is too much is being played on the fringes versus in the center where most Americans are. And I think whichever party can figure out the most effective way to play closer to the center is ultimately going to be the one who wrests most of the control over the politics in this country from the other. But as long as we continue to wrestle on the fringes on these fringe issues that, quite frankly, impact a very small percentage of people that we're talking about here at the expense of
independence. You're either an independent Republican or an independent Democrat at the end of the day, and you're going to lean to one side.
that moderate argument, especially for Democrat, has been a losing argument, and that's part of the reason
No,
why.
I think people are. I agree with that. I think most people are either center left or center right.
Yes, I mean,
Yeah.
the whole independent argument like that.
But I will say this: you got people like Phil
Like
Heimlich.
we said before.
Yeah, but you got people like Phil Heimlich who are persuadable given the right set of circumstances.
Back and
And
forth.
Donald
Feels like
Trump
I'm persuadable.
Huh?
You said Phil.
Yeah, that's news to me.
That's news to me.
I mean, look, what
No,
did you
Phil's
vote
a
in?
dick-
What did you vote in
yeah,
this
you are
past
Certainly
election?
not by
Phil?
any of you.
Phil, what did you vote in this past election?
He
Who
voted
did I
for.
vote for?
He voted for the
Yeah.
Queen. He voted for
I
the
voted
Queen.
for Kamala Harris.
Okay, so there's my
Burn
point.
your
By the
card
way-
in, Phil.
By the way, even
Turn
though
your
I'm
card
Republican,
in.
I refuse to
Turn your card
vote for
in.
anybody who was an election denier. Okay, that I will not vote for somebody of any party who lies or goes along with a lie like that.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was the reason why you saw Kamala Harris doing all of those campaign stops with Liz Cheney, because they were hoping that there were more Phil Heimlichs out there that would join on with her. Maybe it was just based upon January 6th. It just didn't pan out that way in this election cycle.
Well, and I think to Tarris's point though, but when you look at the base, you know, one could make the argument, I think in the same way when Hillary Clinton lost in 2016, she did not do a good enough job of churning out the base. There was one thing that you could count on for Donald Trump, and that was his base was going to come out to support him regardless. I mean, that was what you heard consistently through the reporting. His 30, his 33, 40%, whatever that number was, that was locked in. They weren't going anywhere. You couldn't say that for the Democrats. I mean, constantly, particularly when Joe Biden was in the race, you know, all you kept hearing was about how parts of his base, the Democratic base, were peeling off from him because some felt like he was too old. Some, you know, they wanted to change. And when Kamala Harris took over, what was the reporting? A lot of parts of the Democratic base that were unenthusiastic, that had fallen off their support for Joe Biden, they came back for her. And that was a big part of the changing in the polls of what we saw. If you want to believe all of it, I'm just telling you what was reported.
You mean
Somebody in the chat says Phil has TBS. Now, TDS. Now, I probably shouldn't ask this, but I'll go ahead. What's that stand for?
Trump derangement syndrome.
Oh, I plead guilty.
Plead guilty. You know, it's funny. You have these Trumpsters. They'll have on a red "Make America Great Again" hat to the front. They'll have a black one underneath the red one to the back. They'll have on a gold "Make America Great Again" T-shirt and jersey and jacket with some gold Trump shoes on with a gold watch. They've got crypto in their crypto wallet, and they'll turn around and say somebody else has Trump derangement syndrome. It's hilarious. Who's really deranged when it comes to Trump, right? It's these guys. But it's funny how they play that game. Hey, and good afternoon to you, Michael. Appreciate you being here, bro.
Mm-hmm.
You know I got to mess with you. You know, let's talk about some local news here. So switch things up a bit. You know, Avtab Pureval has cracked down in terms of public comments when it comes to the main council meetings. Apparently, this was being abused. They had, you know, what I'm reading was a regular crew of about 7 to 8 to 9 to 10 people who would come down there and talk about all kinds of stuff, whether it was international affairs or not. They were making threats, allegedly. I did not hear it myself. I'm getting this secondhand through local reporting, and make threats at council people and just take the conversation in off the rails, so to speak. So now they've got new rules. You've got a 30-minute time limit, and some people are saying this is a crackdown on free speech. I want to get your guys, your opinion.
30 minutes for all the comments?
In total, as to my knowledge, what I read, yes, 30 minutes for all the comments before the main council meetings, not the committees. That's still open, but the main council meeting they have.
People still get 2 minutes.
People still get 2 minutes, and it's a 30-minute limit for everybody total. If I'm reading that incorrectly or reciting that incorrectly, please disabuse me of my folly and give us the correct information. But that is, to my knowledge, what I read.
So roughly then that means if everybody takes their 2 minutes, then it's roughly enough for like 15 speakers. Then
I did the same math. Yes.
Mhm.
Correct.
And what is the do we know what the average is? What that, like, how many people on average come down to speak at a council meeting?
We're thinking very similarly because I asked myself that same question. And what I got from the article, and this was a Cincinnati.com article, they were saying it read that, if I'm recalling correctly, somewhere between 10 people max were kind of the usual people showing up on a regular basis and for public comment.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been, I can't speak because I don't regularly hang out at city council meetings and haven't been to one.
That shows good taste, by the way.
Well, they do them. The timing isn't necessarily convenient, I think, for a lot of people in terms of when they actually, typically tend to have the city council meetings. I mean, they're most of the time during the work days, I would imagine, when people do have to work. I think, I think a lot depends on what they're seeing. I mean, I kind of see this the same thing at, in the job that I do at the Inquirer, which is, taking public sentiment. We were kind of talking about this without naming any names. There are a handful of people who will send in a letter to the editor every day, or sometimes 2 or 3 a day. And these are people who have a lot of time on their hands and obviously a lot of things to say. And it's not that what they have to say is not important, but they essentially flood and saturate the market with their opinions. I mean, I think if that's what you're seeing in city council, if the same people are showing up all the time, you're not getting, new voices. You give those folks, I mean, I'm not saying that they shouldn't have the opportunity to do that, but certainly if people are making threats, being disruptive, I mean, I think there's a difference between being passionate and then I think, not following the decorum of a city council meeting. I think council is well within their parameters to try to reel that in and control that. Although I do tend to err on the side that you should have a pretty wide berth for that. But if it veers into the area of threats or people are just getting downright disrespectful, then yes, I think they do have a right to kind of reel that in and
well, if it's getting to that level, then they should handle those individuals individually. I don't think you impact the public in a way, because sometimes there's going to be instances where the chambers is going to be flooded and people want to be heard, and it shouldn't be limited to about 15 folks. That can easily be like one side of a particular issue taking up all the space and all the air, and the other side not even being able to speak. So I don't know if I agree with that. I do need more information, but on the surface, it just seems like if you're just talking about a few people being disruptive, then you may have to speak to those individuals, or put a block on them of some sort of way, if that's possible. But dealing with what you're dealing with, this is public, and anybody that work in public office, you're going to deal with all types of individuals. If mental health is real, and it's just like, you still have a job to do. And but I don't know if you do it in such a way where it impacts the voice of the masses. And it sounds like that could have that type of negative impact.
Yeah. Phil, you were on council. What do you think?
I had pretty strong feelings about both limiting comments by members of the public and by members of city council when I was on. You guys may not remember this, but there were some people who would come in during the public comment section, and there was a guy, I think he got shot. He was shot. Kadapa Abba, what was his name?
Kabaka Abba.
He would come up and make the most horrible anti-Semitic statements, just racist anti-Semitic stuff. And frankly, the mayor at the time, I think, was Charlie Lucan. By and large, let him get away with it. In my view, somebody who preaches hate like that needs to be tossed out, period. I did feel one of the regrets that I never did is I wish I had proposed just a time limit for remarks by council members, because there were guys who would go on and on and on and repeat the same thing over and over. So when I was president of the county commission, I was real strict about that. I had set time limits.
Yeah,
I'm reading that back in February 2024, council members heard from more than 100 speakers, either in favor of or against the city taking up a resolution for a ceasefire in the Israel-Hamas war. Apparently, from what I'm reading here, the public comment session lasted about 4 hours.
Yeah.
And there wasn't even any business before city council on this. So it looks like there's a lot of frustration about those kind of things happening. And I get it. Everybody wants to go home. I think that you want to do things in a timely manner. I'm just concerned about curtailing the public's freedom of speech. From what I'm reading, they are going to deal with individuals who are just making threats or saying things that are obscene in the council chambers, as they should. But, there's going to come a time where, to what It.Nicole said, it's going to be packed, and rightfully so, because the public wants to be heard, and they should be heard. And to reduce it down to 30 minutes, it just feels like censorship. It feels like censorship for any future issues. And I get it, the whole thing I just talked about, 4 hours, and it's not even anything the city council can do anything about Israel, Palestine. They can't do anything about that. People are asking the city to pass a resolution for whatever impact that will make. But you know what? That's just a part of it too. That's just a part of being a public servant, being an elected officials. You're going to have nights like that. You're going to have to deal with what could be headaches. And these are just the headaches of a full functioning and healthy democracy, in my humble opinion. I would still need to know a little bit more, because I think Kevin spoke to this. I haven't been down there. I haven't really been paying attention. But just from what I'm reading, my gut is telling me I just don't like it. I don't like anything that curtails the public's ability to stand in front of elected officials angrily, if they want to, vehemently, passionately, and let them know how they feel, even if council was inconvenienced, even if you get home 3 or 4 hours later. That's what you signed up for.
Yeah. I think there has to be a level of reasonableness to it. However, I agree with like 99% of what you said, Nathan, and that, council should make as many allowances as are reasonable to hear from the public, and also allow them to do business. And I think if council, well, first of all, they should have a little flexibility in that. I think anything that is drop dead without any sort of discretion or ability to flex that out is problematic in and of itself. So even if you said 30 minutes, having something in there that says, under the discretion of the mayor or council to go longer in certain circumstances, because there are going to be issues, as you brought up, that are going to be important issues that the public is going to want to be vocal on, and there are going to be a lot of people who are going to want to come out and speak to that. And I think council is making a mistake by not making allowances for that in the council session, or if you're going to limit the time frame in the council session, create another separate meeting where you're going to set aside a couple of hours to allow the public to come in and speak on a particular issue.
Well, that's the thing, Kevin, that you can still go to committee meetings, and there is no time limit there. But to me, I would say that's not the same as the full council. There should be full council time set aside when all the members are there for them to hear from the public. And I bet that AFTAB holds the strings. So if an issue comes up and he deems that the issue is serious enough for them to go over the 30-minute time limit, I'm sure it'll be okay. And I don't like that kind of control, because now he's picking and choosing when they want to hear from the public, and it should be the other way around.
Yeah. I'm just saying that I can see a scenario where if you've got 101 people standing up and talking about the war in Gaza, again, using that as an example. And I won't go so far as to say, yeah, theoretically, there's nothing that city council here in Cincinnati can do about that. But you do have a lot of people who have family members who are affected by that. And I get people wanting to be heard by their elected officials on that issue. But you got to imagine in that 4 hours that there was a hell of a lot of redundancy in there, that people who were saying the same thing that didn't really advance the conversation any, other than just saying that person got an opportunity to be heard. And you do see that. I mean, I doubt very seriously that there were 101 different diverse points of view on the war in Gaza that were expressed that night over 4 hours. And so I think, like, if you want to continue to keep it open, then what you've got to express to the public is, hey, if you don't have any new thought to express, or if there's a group that's coming up, maybe you have a spokesperson or something like that. I do think that there is some element of, again, I think common sense. I don't know that it does anything to advance the issue to listen to 10 people consecutively get up and say exactly the same thing. I don't know that advances. I don't know that advances the issue much. If I got a council room full of people who are opposed to an issue, and I see 100 people show up, and I get people might have been on different sides of that issue, but you kind of get the picture, just by the showing of the numbers. People are not happy, or people have a certain expectation that's coming there. I don't know that hearing 10 or 15 people get up and say exactly the same thing is, if I'm on council, is going to move me one way or the other. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, but it's the other part of it, right? The other part of it is, as an elected official, and its constituents, right? Then you should have an opportunity to let your voice be heard, even if I'm saying the same thing that the 5 or 10 people right in front of me just said. So what? That, to me, that's irrelevant. It's about the individual having the right and the access to face their elected officials and to be heard. Now, whether they're listening to them or they're drowning them out because they're on their phone, whatever. But that time is valuable. But I also do hear you. I mean, it's like, on the other hand, like, come on now. We've been here 3 or 4 hours, right? So I want to go home. Nobody's offering anything that's going to move the needle. Okay, let's just end this. But I feel like if you feel that way, you're in the wrong business. You shouldn't have become an elected official.
Well, let's just be real, man. I mean, people are human. After 4 hours, everybody got a gas tank, and at some point, your gas tank is running on empty. Whether you're a public official or not, whether that's what you get paid to do or not. At a certain point, I'm tired, and when I'm tired, my attention span is going to suffer. So you may be talking, and that's all you're doing is talking, because you know what? I'm thinking about,
and that's okay.
And I'm thinking about what I'm about to get home and do. And so then the question is that really serving the speaker? Because if my goal is to be heard by my elected official, but they're checked out because they've been here for 4 hours, is that really serving me? I mean, I could stand in the mirror and talk to myself if it's just about getting it out. So I think there has to be some degree of, that's why I say reasonableness, to understand, like, what is the most effective way for people to really get heard. And I'm just telling you, man, I just think most people are human, man. It's a rare individual that can sit up for 4 or 5 hours and be just as dialed in hour 4 or 5 as they were in hour 1. And that's just facts.
I mean, all facts, but you know what you do? You do like we all do. We've all been in a professional setting where we was in a meeting and falling asleep. You go get you some coffee, and you try to keep your eyes open, because that's your job. You do the same thing everybody else do. We all been there.
I think they could scale down. I mean, 4 hours is a long time, but you don't scale it all the way down to 30 minutes, and that's just too much of a big reduction. Maybe 2 hours. And that might be long for some people, but just given, especially, I would say,
I mean, that's more of a
up to 2 hours, because if it doesn't last that long, it doesn't have to be that long.
It doesn't have to be that long, right?
4 hours, it's not. If I'm not being paid, I guess they are, but just like, no, that's just too long.
But too long for who, though?
And time is valuable. So,
but too long for who? Like, to those individuals, those citizens that were down there for 4 hours, no matter what they were saying about, Palestine, Israel, whatever side they were on, it matters to them.
Well,
so I don't want to be in a position where I'm like, oh, your issue don't matter as much as mine, right? Because if I'm passionate about something, like I just was at the school board whenever they was making these decisions about what they're going to do next year. It was like 4 or 5 hours. People was passionate,
so
right? It meant something to me. So for other people looking at it, they might be like, oh, that don't really matter. So why it's all subjective.
They had 100 speakers, and it took 4 hours to get through all 100 people, right?
I was just doing that half myself.
It really is about cutting the amount of speakers you could have. You know what I'm saying? But
or cutting their time.
Some people need to designate a spokesperson. Usually most organizations do, that's coming. It doesn't require a lot because sometimes it just get redundant. And then especially if you're trying to stay for the meeting that proceeds, and if there's an answer to be made afterwards, you just don't want to drown people out with just too much. So I don't think it should be reduced down to 30 minutes, but maybe 2 hours, but definitely 4 hours. That's just too long for anything.
And I don't think that a lot of them go 4 hours. I think the example that I read in a newspaper, that was from WCPO. They talked about something that happened back in February of last year or sometime last year that took about 4 hours. So I don't know how often they hit that 4 hour mark with public comment. That would be interesting to know. But at the end of the day, I just feel like, when you curtail the freedom of speech for any individual, that threatens the freedom of speech for all the individuals on some levels for me. But again, I don't have to sit there for 4 hours. So it's easy for me to say on some levels.
Yeah. And I think too, you got to be careful about talking about curtailing people's freedom of speech. When you think about all of the many different ways that people can have their voices heard and access members of council that go beyond just showing up for the public comment portion of the main Cincinnati City Council meeting. I mean, council members have office hours. You can email them. You can, as you said, you can show up to committee meetings. I mean, there are a plethora of different ways in which you can interact with city council people and get your message out to them. I mean, look, we're ignoring the fact that, I'm not saying this is true of everybody, but for some people, we know that's showtime. That is showtime for some people to show up down in Cincinnati City Council, and they're on city cable, and they can show up and they can say what they want to say. Then they can call into Lincoln or Nathan Ivy or whoever and say, hey, I was down in city council today and I told them
I
this.
think you're talking about somebody in particular.
I don't look.
And he
as
loves
I said
you no matter
earlier,
what
when you tried to put me on the spot about who I was talking about on the podcast, I'm not dropping names. I'm not doing that.
I'm gonna name the names, but go right ahead.
I'm not gonna do that. But I'm just saying, and again, that's probably not even the majority of people who go down here. But there are some who I think, unfortunately, that's the unfortunate thing about policies like this and policies in general is most of the rules and laws that we have are not made for the majority of us. Majority of people got common sense. They know what to do, how to conduct themselves, and how to carry on. It's the small percentage of people, the showtime folks, the people who, want to be disruptive or whatever for whatever reason, are the reason why we have why we have these rules. And it's unfortunate because I think if people could just do right, you wouldn't see some of these things. And I get do right is relative and subjective. I understand that, but I think we know the types of behaviors that I'm talking about that generally tend to lead to these types of rules.
Oh, I've seen it, but you know what? I'm mad at. Oh, go ahead, TNT. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying most people don't even want to speak, and usually when there is like a big, ticket issue, people coming down, and it's crowded, you have your selected speakers or you have multiple speakers, of course. But if you don't have the opportunity to speak, there is still ways to access your council member. I mean, you can set up a personal meeting with the individuals. A lot of people do that. And that one-on-one interview or meeting is usually more engaging than a 2-minute, spot in the personal public. Or you can write a letter, too, or send an email. And that's just as effective. So, I mean, there's multiple ways. It's not like really reducing one's ability to communicate with their counsel. If they want to be amongst the public and pronounce that way, that's one thing. But there's still just multiple ways to get your point across about an issue.
What's the longest meeting you had to attend with public comments, Phil?
Don't ask. It is probably well over 4 hours. Let me put it this way. I am very sympathetic to, sorry for you free speech advocates. I'm very sympathetic to reducing those kind of comments. The most important thing is to limit the time per speaker to no more than 2 minutes. I hope they still do that. The fact of the matter is, there's very little in life that cannot be said in 1 minute, much less 2. Okay? Very little.
I disagree with that wholeheartedly.
Oh, I could make a joke, Kevin, but I wouldn't.
I was hoping. That's what I teed you up, Phil. Man, what more do you want from me?
I could give some examples, but I won't. But,
I put that right over the plate for you, man. Come on.
all right, well, and I hit it out of the park. But here's the point. I mean, let's be honest. We all have a tendency to go on and on and on and on. We all do. Okay, and if you don't put limits, your limits of 2 minutes or whatever it is, they don't restrict anybody's free speech. But as Kevin even said, I can tell you, sitting through those meetings, I mean, people will literally talk all night, okay? And it actually hurts. It actually, in a sense, hurts the right of everybody to have their speech or their free speech. So I'm all for those kind of restrictions. And I believe, and maybe Nicole said this, I mean, 2 hours for this kind of that's enough. I mean, that is enough. If you don't put restrictions, I guarantee you people will talk all night.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. I think 30 minutes is just not enough time. 2 hours to me seems to resonate. That seems like a sweet spot, good compromise in my opinion. But of course, I'm not making a decision. That's Aftab Pureval, who I hope to bring to Hot. I'm gonna reach out to him this week and see if we can get him on the show and talk about numerous things in terms of the office of the mayor of Cincinnati. That's all I got, guys. I mean, I'll end of the show, so I'll say what I always say. I mean, is there anything that you missed or you want to circle back around and make a point? Did somebody say something that you made a mental note or didn't get a chance to get it in? Speak now or forever hold your peace.
I've got
I'll
it.
just share- Oh,
You go ahead.
I'll just share a funny anecdote really quick since we were talking about Nelly and Snoop Dogg and all of those folks not or performing and perhaps shouldn't have performed at Donald Trump's thing. And Phil, you might remember this. I famously remember after the 2001
because it was like 50 years ago. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, roughly back in Jesus' days.
Yeah, yeah, right. Yeah.
Back after the civil unrest in 2001, you remember there was a boycott going on in Cincinnati.
Don't start this again.
That was led by the Black United Front and a whole bunch of other
uprising
groups
against the riots. We'll be on this for 3 hours.
No, this is a quick story. And
Right.
so as a part of that boycott, they were asking Black entertainers not to come to Cincinnati to perform, and they were actually successful. They got, I think Wynton Marsalis and Bill Cosby and a few other people turned down performances to come. And so Charlie Lucan, who was the mayor at that time, he was so desperate to quell the momentum of the boycott groups because they were really making headway with these artists. He reached out to James Brown, and asked him to come perform at the Taste of Cincinnati that summer. And I never will forget James Brown's famous point when he was asked about breaking the boycott to come and perform the boycott that the ministers had put together. And James Brown's quote was, "I don't care about no funky ministers." He needed that bag. He needed that bag Lucan was offering because James wasn't really quite hitting like he was. He needed that bag, so he didn't care about no funky ministers.
But I believe he
Sound like Soulja Boy.
I believe he had a brand new bag. Just to be.
Oh yeah, he got a brand new bag, right, from the mayor. That's hilarious.
He did. He got that bag.
Well, let me, since it's you done, Kevin? That was good.
I'm done.
All right. Well, let me say again, to quote the aforementioned Mr. Brown, I feel good. But there is one point that I thought I didn't make, and I thought Nicole put it very well when she talked about Trump's use of the word hostages or patriots for these thugs that were in jail for violent offenses. And it reminds me that maybe you think I'm exaggerating, but in a dictatorship, the dictator tells you that what you see is not what you see. Okay? It's kind of like Putin saying, well, he went into Ukraine to denazify the country. Okay? I mean, I guess most people just accept that over there, and I guess in Russia. But it's just telling you what's happening is not happening. And that use of the word hostage patriots for what we can see on video before our very eyes is terrible, and it applies to all those people at his inauguration. Okay, they know that that's not true, and again, so I just see that as a very sad comment about where our country is going.
Hmm. I agree, and it's really like going against our own intelligence. Like we know better, and for people that just choose to ignore it, shame on you. That's all I could say. But we got to do better. I just want to emphasize the point that we, the people, we do have power, and we got to maintain the hope, and we got to continue to fight, and truth will prevail. And we have to stand stronger in that truth. We have to control the narrative, and that's going to be very hard to do when most of the media outlets are controlled by, some of these tech giants that are in the pockets or aligned with the current administration in such a way. So, the greater good and moral compass of people, we'll see if it's money over everything or people. But I'm kind of feeling like it's going to be the other way around. But that doesn't mean we stand down and we don't fight, and it doesn't mean that we remain silent. We can't. Last thing I'll say, I had put into the chat about the California fires. I have some colleagues. Like I said, I came back from DC last week, and one of my colleagues has shared that her family members was impacted by the fires in California, particularly the Altadena area, which is a historically Black area. And these are older people who have lost their generational wealth, their personal heirlooms. I mean, they always have these wildfires, and it's always a belief that you'll be able to come back home. And so a lot of people didn't take what they needed, and so personal, their whole life history, is gone. And she would say, imagine going back to a place where the place you used to jump rope or went to school is no more. It's just decimated. And their people are devastated. Not only have I highlighted 2 of her personal family members, but they have created a whole spreadsheet because there's so many people impacted. People are giving clothes and things like that. They're like, they have no place to put the clothes. They don't need clothes. They need money. A lot of people were impacted with the insurance, as we all know, like they couldn't be insured. And so imagine having to pay for a mortgage for a home that is no longer there, and now having to find and rent a place. And the rent might be more than what your mortgage was. And then you have this incoming administration that wants to negotiate other things and not have humanity toward people who have lost everything. It's terrible times, but it's going to take people power again to raise people up during these trying times. So if you have a church, if you have an organization, if you could share those links, I think even if it's something as small as $5, $10, it'll be helpful. If I think all across the country, if we're all giving a little bit, it all adds up and it can help.
All right. You say you put a link in the just in the comment section?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right, folks. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you. We'll be back on Friday at 1 p.m. for another episode of the Hot Mic Podcast. Already got a few pieces of the crew together, but you never know who'll be with us. And have a great rest of your Tuesday and hopefully a good week.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.